you still there?
Yes, still here.
Yeah, it's now. Just close my Zoom screen down. Oh, it's sharing the wrong screen. Sorry. Let me just go back.
Okay. Don't you worry.
Yeah, view, speaker view.
You got it all okay?
And let's try and share the screen again.
Don't worry if this happens.
Yeah, it's trying to share the wrong screen. Still there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's now. Just close my Zoom screen down. Oh, it's sharing the wrong screen. Sorry. Let me just go back. Yeah, view, speaker view. So what can you see, Joe?
What I can see is the phenomenal challenges.
Oh, okay, so you can see that. Okay, it's just it's taken the Zoom away from me. I can't actually see any of the chat or anything. And anyway, okay, that's fine. I'll open the chat there. It's all bunched inside the webinar, but it doesn't matter. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. What can you see, Joe?
What
And I'm getting
it is the phenomenal challenges.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so you can see that. Okay. It's just it's taken the Zoom away from me. I can't actually see any of the chat. I'm going to mute my sound so I can hear myself. If you need to chat to me, Joe, you just pop stuff in the chat. I'm going to open it up on my. So, hi guys, how are you? I'm just going to get set up. Auditorium. We are in the live workshop. Ah, there it is. There. I'm going to join the Zoom over there as well, just so it opens up because I can't see what I originally could see. So yeah, welcome. Who am I? Robert Murray. I'm one of the exhibitors at Funnels Qualified. You'll see my
And yeah.
just going to get set up. 9. I think I've just taken it off of my my thing here. I'm just trying to see if I can actually get it full screen on my laptop. Looks like I can. Yeah, so I've got an hour, so I'm going to walk you through. I can see myself now, so hi, how are you? I'm over here in Spain. I've got a beautiful sunny day. You'll probably hear the birds and the crickets chirping away. I am in shorts and t-shirts. It is red hot here. I know the UK has had a little bit of good weather, but as you know, that will probably be 2 or 3 days and then it'll be back to normal. I've got all the windows and all the doors open here in the office here. So yeah, just wanted to make you a little bit jealous for anyone that's getting on live. Continue, the meeting is being recorded. Okay, cool. So you don't need to and find out about me and chat, speak to anyone. I've a multi-minute planning session as well, so you know, grab them whilst I'm available. I wanted to, you know, how to put your leads and sales on steroids using challenges, and this is something that only my higher level clients get access to. Some of the insider training that I give. I'm still not seeing the full screen over here.
We can see your screen, Robert. We can see your screen as well as your video.
You're seeing my, you know, how to put muted my sound over on my computer because I don't want it to backlash in. I just want to check that you can see my entire screen, the whole customer journey.
Yeah, we can see your flow graph and your video.
Awesome. Either one. Yeah. Let me know in the chat. I'm pretty sure you can. I'm just going to have to presume that you can, as I can't see any chat. Yes, perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to go through the map of a funnel, the actual funnel. We're funnel builders. We niched down to challenges about 10 years ago because, you know, there's a lot of people out there claiming to be funnel builders. So kind of just niched down into challenges. We started running them ourselves, started getting the back end. And this is my phenomenal challenges customer journey. You'll probably hear me say phenomenal a lot of times. It's one of the phrases that myself, my buddies, Nick James and Matt Elwell say a lot. you know, most of the time I start most of my videos with what a phenomenal time to be alive, because it is. You know, right now, COVID's changed the entire world, and anyone with any kind of skill set can put together a 5-day, a 10-day, a 30-day challenge and give their value for free across a challenge. And I'm going to go through the journey in a minute, and then sell clients into a high. It's as simple as that. So let's start off at the beginning. So this is how we work out. Client will see a Facebook ad. We're going to start using YouTube ads soon as well, but any form of traffic will send the client avatar. And again, that's one of the things we work on our 10-day challenge that we're running actually Monday. So if any of you are interested, any of you want to get onto our 10-day challenge where I show you magnet and a sales funnel and a free software, and you can come and join us. Let me see if I can actually add up here in the chat. You can see it on my stand as well, but I'm just gonna, I've got a 6-screen setup, so if I'm looking away at any points, because I've got one screen up here with the webinar playing, I've got one here, and I've got one of mine is out at the moment, but so yeah, it's because I'm playing around on my other screen. And I'm going to post into the chat over here. You're seeing the customer journey. For some strange reason, it won't let me see the chat. So if you would like to join our 10-day challenge, so you can have an over-the-shoulder. Sorry, I'm trying to type and talk. That just never works. If you want to see over the shoulder of how we run a challenge, then please come and join us. We've got some pre-training tonight. We did pre-training last night, pre-training tonight, where I'm going through a lot of stuff that's going to help people. So you're welcome to come and join that. It's completely free. But yeah, so client avatar sees a Facebook ad, they click, they arrive at the challenge landing page, which used to, I think you'll go and see it. It's actually not a very good link. I did put HTTP, but just to give you an idea, this is the page. I'm just going to drag that down from up there. So this is the landing page. Okay, and if I go back to here, so they arrive at the landing page, they enter their name and email. So when they click here, it's going to ask them to enter their name and email. It's going slow because I'm streaming. And this is obviously, when you see those four little areas here: awareness, consideration, purchase, advocacy. So once they've entered their name and email, they're into my world then, okay? I can communicate with them, give them training, give them input, give them bonuses. I've got them into my funnel, okay? People always ask me what a funnel is, and it's just the way I describe it is it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 days a year salesperson. That's what a funnel is, because once they've entered that name and email, there's a chain of things that happen then on they make, okay? So then they visit the thank you page or an upsell page, and on my challenge, VIP backstage pass upsell, where they can get additional training with me, behind the scenes speakers, you know, the bonuses. There's a huge amount. So a huge percentage of people upgrade. It's only £47 or $47, but that's my way of liquidating or self-liquidating my ad spend. If I'm spending £47 to get one client in who buys my upsell, then I'm completely cost neutral. Okay, and that's not talking about a lead. That's talking about a lead that then comes in and buys. Okay, so the upsell. Hey guys, I don't know what happened there. I don't know if if I disappeared, let me know. I'm just going to go back to my screen.
All good.
Yeah, I can see your screen now. Yeah.
It kind of looked like it kicked out. I don't know. I'm hoping you can see my screen again. I'm going to I'll just look out for a comment just saying that you can see my screen. So I think we were about here. We were in the awareness stage. They visit the thank you page or upsell page. Obviously, they get added to my list, my specific list for that July 10-day challenge. But they also then get added to my Know, Like and Trust campaign. I want them to figure out who am I, you know, and they get a little email campaign, 10 to 15 days of value, where I'm giving them bonuses, training, additional things that they weren't aware of. I want to wow them. I want to give them that wow moment, okay? Looks like my video up here is not working. It's all going on. It's all going live, virtual. This happens. That's what being online is about. And by the way, if I didn't mention the, I'm a huge introvert. These kind of things are really, really hard for me. I'm definitely not an extrovert. I'm happy to sit in my office, work on my funnels, work on my challenges. But I've trained myself over the last 20 years that I know I need to do this kind of thing to put myself out there into the world. So yeah. So now we've, you can see here, it receives plenty of indoctrination and reminder emails. So now they're into that challenge list. They're going to get the bonuses straight away. They're going to get some steps that they've got to take. They'll have that on the thank you page as well. And some of the steps are just very straightforward, like whitelisting my email address, joining the Facebook group where the challenge will be held. That's where the community starts. You know, grabbing their bonuses, etc. And then there'll be the pre-training, is me indoctrinating them. So pre-training last night, I trained people on this kind of stuff, so that they see that I've got the skill set, I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I should tune in again tomorrow. And all the pre-training is just indoctrination to get them to show up on Monday when the actual challenge starts, okay? And this part is really important. This part is where so many people miss out with whatever they're doing, whether it's a challenge or just a normal funnel. They miss that indoctrination part. Then they attend the pre-training, which, as I said, started last night, is again tonight and then tomorrow. And then they attend the live training, which starts on Monday, and it's a 10-day challenge. But most of the time we run a 5-day challenge. Each 5 days seems a bit better. Sorry, that's my my gate buzzer here. Then they have a big domino moment. So somewhere through the challenge, they're going to have that aha moment, okay? There's going to be a moment where they click and they realise, oh God, yeah, that's what I've been missing, or that's the bit I needed. And you want to get feedback from them. Every single day's task, they're going to feedback. They're going to tell you what they did. Excuse me, 2 seconds. Hola. ¿Qué tal? Ah, sí, sí. Un ratito. It always happens when you don't want it to. Sorry. Delivery. Many apologies. So yes, where was I? So yes, they're going to have a big domino moment, or that's the plan. If it's a 5-day challenge, you want that domino moment to be around day 3, day 4. For me, the 10-day challenge, they're having a domino moment day 4 and probably day 6 or 7, where they're just getting that, oh God, that's what I've been missing. That's, you know, the challenge, the free challenge, the whole point of it is to show them that you know exactly what you're talking about, but also then give them those massive aha moments. You're not giving them the bank, by the way. And this is where people get confused with, you know, well, it's a free challenge, you know, how can you make money from it? And the point is here, make that a bit bigger, you're not giving them everything. You're giving them enough where they get the aha moments and they go, oh yeah, now I can do that bit, and I can do that bit, but you're not giving them everything, okay? So yeah, they're going to get an aha moment, then they start to gain trust in you. They trust you, they trust your expertise, they trust you know what you're talking about, and you're pushing them and stretching them on the challenge. The word challenge, you know, you're supposed to be stretching them. You're supposed to be making them go outside their comfort zone. Because most people that I work online nowadays. You can find every bit of information you want. If you want to run Facebook ads, you can find it. If you want to become a massage expert, you can find it. You can find all the information. It's just that a challenge is compiling all of that together, saving people a lot of time, but also then forcing them to do the work, okay? And because at the end of the challenge, you close everything down, get rid of all the trainings, they've got a limited time to do it. If they buy an online course, it could sit there for 10 years. Yeah, we've all bought an online course and it's just sat there and you've never opened it, never done anything with it. So now they start getting belief in your ability to help them achieve a transformation. Okay, they want to go from here to here. You're going to take them this part here in the challenge. There's still a great big chunk over here that you can help them with further. And that's important because you want them to work with you after the challenge. And this is the next part. You know, on a 5-day challenge, day 4, I'm giving them an opportunity to work with me further in a higher ticket program. On the 10-day challenge, I think it's day 7 or day 8, I offer them to work with me on a higher level, you know, one-to-one or in my mastermind. And on my pre-training, I don't lie with people, I don't hide with people. I presume that they're very intelligent and they understand that they're on a free challenge and there's every chance that I'm going to try and sell them something. So I tell them that day 1, pre-training, day 2, pre-training, day 3, pre-training. I remind them all the way through. I'm kind of sowing the seed that, you know, by the way, I'm going to be giving you an opportunity to work with me. I don't just say I'm going to try and sell you, I'm going to try and pitch you, I just tell them, look, this is what's going to happen. I show them the map that I'm going to show you in a second, and I say, look, around about this day, I'm going to give you the opportunity to work with me. If you feel like I've stretched you, pulled you, pushed you, and made you take action and got you some results, I'm going to give you an opportunity to continue with me at a ridiculous value with a ridiculous offer. If that's great for you, perfect. If not, carry on with the challenge, get your results, and go on your merry way. And people just really respect that I'm just open and honest about it. And I prefer to do it that way. So yeah, they visit your high ticket sales page around day 4 or day 7 or 8. They rush to find their wallet because by now they're indoctrinated. They really love you. They love what you're doing. They purchase and then they work with you. And this achieves the desired transformation for them. And then they tell you to put my card on file and they praise you online. And that's what you want. Okay, it gets to the point where they're raving about you. You don't need to do anything. These guys are going out. I've got an affiliate program where they're promoting me. Okay, so yeah, any questions in the chat, please let me know. If there are any other questions that I cannot see, Joanne, please let me know. But that is the customer journey. I'm just going to check the time to see where we're at. Okay, so I've actually flown through that really quickly. Let me just mute my sound over here. Just got a message from one of the guys. So, yeah, if you would like to go and join my next 10-day challenge, which is here, you can see the link I did put in the chat, but for some reason the chat on my desktop here is unable to get. You know, there's $2,000 worth of bonuses and free content that I give you just for joining. It's free. So yeah, you're welcome to come and join. And this is the map. This is the flow that I take people through. This is a free software you can get called Funalytics. Again, let me put that in the chat for anyone that's watching this either on a replay or they've been watching this on a different platform. I'm pretty sure it's still free. I've got a pro membership because I build these things out. When I do a planning call with a client, I map things out like this. You know, we normally start with the end in mind. So on this scenario, I'd be starting over here with, go and grab anything. This would be my starting point, which would be the high ticket sale. You know, what's the end goal? Well, I want to get them into my high ticket program. Okay, then we work backwards. But I just wanted to show you this map just to give you an overview. So traffic, any form of traffic is fine. You can work, you know, your organic traffic. You can work your paid traffic. For me, I do a bit of organic. I've got a YouTube channel, Groove Pages tutorial. That YouTube channel is specifically set up for the Groove software, which if you join my 10-day challenge, I'll give you access to a free software that you can run your entire business on. You don't even need to add a credit card to enter, but please join the challenge. You know, I'll give you $2,000 worth of bonuses. Robert, the sound is perfect on YouTube and delivery elsewhere. However, I'm struggling to hear you, so apologies if I do not respond. So you're struggling to hear me. Let me just check. Let me put my sound up on here. Everyone else can hear you fine, but I hear overlapping. Many apologies. I don't know what's happening there. Yeah, anyone else who's watching, please let me know if you are having problems, because that's a real big thing. As far as I'm aware, you can hear me. I'm logged in on my laptop down here as well, but I've not got the volume on so that it doesn't make a sound. Let me just double check. In fact, I'm not hearing anything. Let me just... Joanne, if you can just double clarify with me that you can hear me and that everything seems to be okay, that'll just make me feel better. Okay, you spoke to everyone else, no worries. Okay, cool. Okay, I'll continue presuming you can hear me. So yeah, look, if you join my 10-day Groovy Challenge, you get access to $2,000 worth of bonuses just for joining the challenge. I give you an additional $2,000 worth of training and bonuses for grabbing a free Groove account through me. So please don't go and Google it. Grab my $2,000 worth of bonuses. I give them inside of my Facebook group. This is all part of the challenge model. Okay, it's getting people into a little community where they all share their fears, their doubts, their worries, etc. And then I'm there as the spokesperson and the expert to lead through that. So yeah, this is the registration page, which is this one here. When they click on that, it sends them to the pop-up, okay, where they can put their name and email, which is this. And then if I've already opted in like 20 times, but if I click on that and register, then that should take me now to an upsell, okay? Now this is my VIP Backstage Pass upsell. You can see here, we've got the Facebook group, so they can go and join that straight away. But I'm grabbing an opportunity where I've got a potential client who wants my help. So there's a little video to tell them what they're going to get in the Backstage Pass. You can see here, I'm not going to go through this, I just wanted to show you the flow. There's $2,700 worth of bonuses for £47. So if they click on the button there, they go through to the order page, which I'll show you here. That will go to the order page. And again, I'm just re-clarifying what they're going to get. This is all hooked up to GrooveSell. Everything here is in GrooveSell. This is a brand new platform. We can build websites, lead magnets, webinars. You've got an email autoresponder. You've got everything. Okay. So now you can see they can go through and purchase with PayPal. I cover everything else that they've got here. We've got a proof widget as well, showing different people who just purchased. So again, it just helps people understand that other people are buying. So yeah, that's the VIP upsell page. There's the order page. Now what we have thrown in as well is we've got a downsell page. Now again, I'm giving you a little heads up here. If you come and join my challenge and you land on this page, if you scroll down, you can click there where it goes to my order page for the £47. Or if you click no thanks, it's going to give you the option to have 50% off. So yes, I've just cut my income with you by 50%. I don't care. This is all about serving you and helping you. So they can have 50% off. They can either click that where it will take them to an identical page, but just with a different price. So you can see here, $23.50. Or they can click here, and that will take them through to the thank you page. Okay, and the thank you page, I've got a really cool video where it forces them to take action on the page. The video pauses. So it's cool just to look at that. In fact, I'm doing training, I think, on that on tonight's pre-training when it loads. Everything's going slow because I'm streaming. So you can see here, step one, grab your bonus. So I'm forcing them to go to their email account. Really important people open their email. If they've opted in but they don't see the email and it goes in the spam, which most do nowadays, please be aware that 90% of your emails hit the spam folder. Gmail, Yahoo, they're all putting everything in spam. So I'm nudging them to say, get your bonuses their email. Then step 2, if my mouse will work, then I'm asking them to whitelist my email address. I've got an entire page here showing them how to whitelist my instructions. If they've got a Gmail account, they click that, it takes them to show them how. If they've got an Outlook, they click that, it takes them down, okay? So I'm really going that extra mile to ensure that my emails are hitting their inbox. The free page, the thank you page. I'm also getting them to invite an accountability buddy. Most people get a better result if they invite accountability buddies. And they can go and receive Facebook messages each time I send out a post. So I'll just turn that back on, and now my WhatsApps are pinging. So yeah, that's the thank you page. So if I go back here, so upsell, if they go straight through and say I want to buy it at £47 or $47, they pay, then they get sent through to that thank you page. If they don't, they click no, they go to the downsell page, which was here, the VIP special, where I give them 50% off. Then they'll go to a different page where it's only £23.50. So if you are registering and you want my VIP Backstage Pass, I'll just give you half off. And then automatically, the Groove software, I've got a membership area set up for the VIP Backstage Pass where they get access to all of their bonuses, access to all the backstage trainings, the Zoom links, etc. And that automatically triggers after they purchased here or here. That gets automatically sent to them with their login details. They can access the VIP members area, and they also get access to a different Facebook group as well. We've obviously got things set up here that you can see as soon as they opt in, they get added to our Know, Like and Trust campaign, where they get my story of who I am, how I came about to be in funnels and challenges, and I give them a load of bonuses that they didn't know were going to happen in. I'm trying to nudge them again to open my emails and keep opening my emails. You know, people ask me, what is the Know, Like and Trust campaign about? It's a bit like a first date, okay? So the first date is where they land on this page.
Brilliant.
Everything that I'm saying, I can hear. Ah, that's it. Right. Okay. Everything that I'm saying, everything that I'm saying. So,
So can you make me host once?
everything that I'm saying. No, that's still.
No.
So can you make me host?
Sanjeev,
So can you make me host?
I can't hear you.
No, that's still. No, that's
So can you
still.
make me host?
Sanjeev,
So can you make me host? Zarina, have you also opened the Digital Age Expo event somewhere?
Yeah, do you want me to get out of that?
Yeah, just close it. Yeah, close it for now.
Right, I've logged out of that.
Just now just try.
I think no, that's still repeating itself.
What are
So
you facing? Zarina, what is the problem?
So every time I speak, there is a 3-second delay, and then I can hear exactly what I've just said being repeated.
Zarina, what is the problem? And you are getting this from your mobile or from your PC? If you can make your PC's volume as well low.
Exactly what I've just said being delay, and then I can hear exactly.
And you are getting this from your mobile or from your PC? And you are. Okay, I think it's. Can you try
coming
now?
through.
Can you try now? I think it was coming from those people.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to need my phone for my camera, aren't I, now? Okay, so can you see me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
You can see me. Okay, right, okay. Hold on then. Right. This might be a little bit unusual then, because I'm trying to look into a camera that is not in the same place as my slides. Okay. All right, well, let's try it. We can only try with the technology that we've got. So are we good to go?
Yes, please, Zarina, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. So sorry about all of that, that's technology for you. So good afternoon, everyone. So we have been through some enormous changes in the customer service arena since the start of the pandemic. So today I'm going to touch on upskilling as we all navigate this next phase tagged as the new normal. So before we get into that, a little bit about me. My name is Zarina Sheikh Matthew. I'm the founder of Imtiaz Consultancy. We're a management practice that focuses on enhancing the customer and employee experience. And we do this via consultancy to review and improve the end-to-end customer engagement model, corporate training to enhance business skills like customer service, professional written communications and account management, and executive and team coaching for personal growth across the organisation. I'm honoured to be listed in the top 100 UK customer experience professionals for 2021. And earlier this year, I was thrilled to be awarded Best HR Consultancy of the Year for Western Europe. An awards judge, mentor and speaker at 2 global conferences over the last few months. I'm a veteran in the customer space, and today I'm speaking about upskilling customer service teams post-pandemic. So last summer, the Office for National Statistics here in the UK reported that 46.6% of people in employment did some work from home in April 2020. And of these, 86% did so as a result of COVID. These stats won't be any surprise to us because we were all forced into lockdown. Coming from an IT background, remote working has been part and parcel of my normal routine for almost 2 decades. And although we've been witnessing an increase in this across different verticals over recent years, it's the pandemic that's truly accelerated this trend. It's now widely accepted that it's here to stay in a full or hybrid model. With this adoption comes the changing needs of our employees. The introduction of new tools via digital transformation strategies, process updates to accommodate the new ways of working, and revised learning and development programs to equip our people with the right skills, enabling them to continue performing well in their roles to meet the needs of our customers. Everyone recognises that upskilling is important for our core skills around building rapport, managing challenging conversations and fostering trust, as well as learning the technology serving as an enabler in our roles. Upskilling is important for our people as it opens the door to more opportunities, drives better problem solving and provides the ability to adopt newer technologies. For our teams, it offers better availability of resources to deliver solutions, the ability to create more efficient solutions more quickly, and increase strength and depth across the team with cross-training. Building resilience and redundancy in our workforce, learning new things ensures we do not become valueless and obsolete. We need to lean into a learning culture by reskilling and upskilling. Doing this effectively requires our employees to embark on a blended learning journey that includes traditional practices like training courses and job aids with non-traditional methods like enhanced peer coaching and learning networks. So let's take a look at some of the things that can be considered. Call recording and call listening are common fixtures in our customer service environments. Aside from any compliance requirements, these provide best value when they are used to enhance quality, drive consistency, and allow team members to observe and learn from their peers. All customer service teams have a knowledge base. They improve productivity, empower your workforce wherever they're located, and preserve knowledge within your business. Find your knowledge champions by asking for volunteers. Give them responsibility for keeping certain sections of your knowledge base updated. This is a great activity for improving employee engagement. Gathering the team together on a regular basis has so many benefits. Of course, this helps to build rapport, camaraderie, and trust across the group. It also provides an opportunity to share experiences, positive customer feedback and escalation, or a gap identified in a process impacting the customer journey. They say that many heads are better than one, providing an opportunity to brainstorm. Therefore, it is critical these meetups are seen as safe spaces that everyone can feel comfortable that items are brought to the table without prejudice. Whilst coaching is most often seen as C-suite, it can be effective at any level of the organisation. One of my favourite definitions of coaching is from Sir John Whitmore, coaching pioneer. He defines coaching as unlocking a person's potential to maximise their own performance. It is helping them to learn rather than teaching them. If we apply this to our customer service teams, it becomes obvious that coaching can be undertaken with individuals, teams, or leadership. It becomes particularly pertinent when employees are promoted from individual contributors to leaders. Unfortunately, this often happens with very little training or coaching. So create a leadership program that coaches those who are new to the position to be inspiring and engaging leaders. Support them with clear objectives and empower them to enhance team performance. So a number of new trends have emerged through the pandemic, which will differentiate the winners from the losers. It may sound obvious, but in our quest to retain existing customers and attract new ones, we must be customer-centric and not company-centric. Customers engage with us to achieve their own intended outcomes. Every time we support them to achieve their purpose, we receive revenue or some other value like loyalty or advocacy. Create journeys that align with our customers' purpose, then develop and operate experiences that enable our customer to achieve it. Adopt a customer-centric, purpose-led approach to meet the needs of each buyer with an individual journey aligned to each person's purpose. And these journeys need to be flexible. Customers have so many choices in how and where they engage with us. Just look at the different options they have grown familiar with over the last few years. These new interaction channels mean the customer journey cannot be rigidly tied to specific touch points. Rather, they should be based on need points, and we have to provide our people with the right training to effectively manage these interactions. Can you confidently say your people have received the right guidance or training to manage web chat or SMS effectively? Do you understand your customers' expectations and needs? We need to know how customers navigate through their need points in order to make decisions to achieve their purpose. Those who successfully address these needs at any potential touchpoint is likely to maintain engagement throughout each customer's journey until each achieves their ultimate purpose and generates value for the business. Measuring and optimizing this journey is key. The better we measure and manage how well we're enabling customers to progress across need points, the stronger the resulting business outcomes. Teams can measure the effectiveness of customer journeys and experiences using customer performance indicators, otherwise known as CPIs. CPIs are the metrics that customers care about as opposed to the ones that the company cares about. The better a company performs on outcomes important to customers, that is CPIs, the better it will perform on outcomes important to the company, our KPIs. And because certain need points in the journey will influence customer decisions more than others, companies should prioritize performing well on CPIs in these moments that matter. For example, many customer service organizations track the CPI first-time resolution, which in turn impacts our familiar KPIs, customer retention and customer lifetime value. Create an effortless customer journey, deliver enhanced customer service, and meet the evolving needs and values of your customers. With the pandemic has come innovation, and I just love some of the ideas I've seen bouncing around organisations to improve efficiency and productivity. Create a stress-free Zoom room. This provides your people with a retreat where they can talk to a friendly face for support, a break from the phones, move away from their desks, encourage them to disconnect from their work laptops, relax into a more comfortable environment. If they're remote workers, this could be the living room where they can sit on the sofa and take their mind off work. As a non-monetary reward, thank your people for their hard work by giving out virtual coupons for an additional break. These can be cashed in to extend their usual lunch and break times, with supervisors stepping in to fill the gaps on the phones. But make sure clear rules are set about how the coupons can be used. For example, they can be used to lengthen a lunch hour, but not to go home early. It'd be a shame to ruin the positive experience with a misunderstanding. A simple technique to improve staff engagement is to allow staff to take off just a few hours rather than having to take off a half day or full day. Rather than providing 24 days of holiday, convert this into 180 hours, which can be called a few hours to do something like attend a school play or a medical appointment. Our employees have been through a lot since the start of the pandemic, shifting to a fully remote working model, operating in isolation for much of the day, and missing the support from their colleagues. As we start to rebuild our businesses in this next phase, there are some key activities to undertake to ensure we create a positive employee experience. Listen to your people. It's imperative that you understand what motivates as well as disengages them. Listen to their experiences via feedback in meetings, surveys, and focus groups. Keep an open channel of communication with your team. Connect with your employees through storytelling and transparent communication. Give them feedback and encourage them to give you feedback in return. Keep employees feeling connected through executive-hosted two-way communication forums, social media campaigns, and town halls. Be explicit in telling employees their perspective is welcome and encouraged. Support your employees' development. Make it known that you're committed to their professional growth and career development. Provide them with resources and opportunities that support this. Support your employees' journey through regular catch-ups and coaching, as well as tangible learning methods like training tools and courses. Equip and enable leaders and managers. Be the support that managers need to enable them to best assist their teams. Provide managers with toolkits, conversation guides, and training to help them engage their employees more effectively. Create space for peer-to-peer support. Employee resource groups and peer networks are a great way to increase employee connection opportunities. The more connected teams are to each other, the more effectively they can work together. Reinforce the desired employee experience through all touch points. Make sure all high-level touch points of the employee experience, like onboarding, performance management, learning and development, are consistent in their messaging. Creating a positive employee experience in our organisations goes a long way in keeping employees engaged in our businesses and thriving. We must ensure that in the day-to-day of keeping customers happy, we always stay focused on ensuring our employees are happy, supported, and thriving too. So what does the future hold for us? I've recently read that almost half of mid to large UK companies plan to move offices within the next 3 years as the shift to flexible working outlasts the pandemic. Better locations, upgraded facilities, or reduced space. Staff will more frequently work remotely, sure, but the importance of having a communal space to meet and the role an office plays in supporting staff development and well-being are key. So that's the office element covered. What else? What about our customers? What's important to them? It's ironic in an age where so many companies proclaim to be customer-centric, customer-first or customer-obsessed, that most still focus only on company-centric metrics. Companies that transform to adopt customer performance indicators alongside the more traditional business metrics of key performance indicators will increasingly outperform competitors and be better optimized for accelerated and differentiated growth. Measuring success through the customer's eyes and not just the eyes of the business will be groundbreaking. Metrics around responsiveness to activities such as quote turnaround, issue resolution time, or something as simple as acknowledgement of correspondence, be it physical or digital. Therefore, it's critical that we invest in our people, equip them with the right skills, processes, and tools to meet these customer needs. Let's not run overcautious training programs. Drip feeding over long periods of time can stifle development. It can also lead to boredom and cause some to look for a new job. We can overcome this by listening to our people and tailoring their training to their individual needs so they can move on to the next phase when they feel ready. We must use what we learn via our quality checks to focus on development areas, leveraging real-life examples to demonstrate best practice. And we shouldn't forget the IT in this. For our organisation to succeed and stay secure, IT must operate at its highest level. When we improve our IT efficiencies, not only does this have business benefits in relation to cost, resiliency and security, for our people, it can improve productivity and employee engagement. The remote work trend isn't going away. To stay competitive, we must offer our employees flexibility in where and how they work. When we choose the right virtualization solution accompanied by an education program, we can support a growing remote workforce while minimizing our IT management. In wrapping up, we must focus on our most prized business assets, our people. Assess them to identify skills gaps, ascertain how we're going to bridge these and how quickly. 50% of US execs have said they've not identified the skills gaps of their current teams. Don't let this be you. Launch tailored training journeys to meet individual development needs, fitting with their learning style, but also the remote reality. Collaborate with learning partners who are focused on upskilling your teams using a variety of methods. Live, online, and classroom interactive sessions, on-demand e-learning platforms, at-the-desk coaching, videos, and daily lessons learned stand-ups. Implement reward and recognition schemes, thank you notes and shout-outs, award ceremonies, and celebration events. A weekly prize like a box of chocolates, bottle of wine, or early Friday finish. Provide a collection of best practice materials and reference guides. Review your processes, have clear policies in place to minimize mistakes and reduce panic in your workplace. This also means that employees can deliver what your customers need much faster. One of the biggest customer frustrations is repeating themselves multiple times just because the first person they get through to isn't able to deal with their inquiry. Fix this problem with intelligent routing to ensure the call is picked up by the right person every time. Implement a CRM system to provide a single lens into the customer. Create a back-end collaboration environment where team members can quickly contact colleagues and subject matter experts for help. Bring more real-life context into training experiences, leveraging systems such as call recording to drive up quality. Remember, different people in your team might learn in different ways. One-on-one mentoring, online learning, and practical activities could be a great way to improve knowledge retention. Customer satisfaction scores, survey feedback, and productivity levels can highlight areas where your employees are having the most trouble with supporting fantastic customer experiences. This means you can set up training strategies specifically to deal with those pain points. Gamification strategies are growing ever popular. Showing your employees their number of successful calls on a wallboard and having them compete for a higher score can sometimes lead to higher levels of camaraderie. Transformations in technology are driving new and improved results for customer service teams. For example, sentiment analysis, sending automated alerts that inform a supervisor or manager when a customer's sentiment is too negative, can lead to live call monitoring and coaching. This extra support will guide inexperienced team members through the process of handling complicated calls. The customer experience environment is always evolving, driven by changing customer demands and expectations. As your company continues to transform, make sure that you listen to your people on how they can deliver better outcomes to your customers. Often they're the first to know about a broken process or procedure in customer service. This will also lead to a better sense of respect and a stronger company culture for your business. Regularly upskilling means your people are always informed and empowered to deliver the best results. Happy staff, happy customers, and increased profits. I hope this has provided some food for thought to take away today. Thank you for listening. Feel free to contact us for an informal chat or visit us at stand 499 in the SME Business Lounge. Enjoy the rest of the event. Back to you guys.
That's perfect. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Jo.
Thank you. How do you feel? It's all stopped recording now. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you. I had a fan blowing on me, but it decided to stop because it's like 30 degrees here today.
Ian, I swear the same thing is happening to me. Mine just stopped. So I figured out that what happened was the electricity plug I was using had just conked out. I feel for you. I feel for you. It's really, really hot, isn't it?
It is very, very hot, but no, it's all good. It's all good.
It's all good. Your presentation was just perfect, just brilliant. Santosh was like, Joanna, can you let me in? And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm so engulfed in it. But no, brilliant. Thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure.
Okay, well, I'll let you go and have a bit of a break, get some, ice cream or a nice cold drink, and hopefully see you a bit later.
Yes, lovely. Thank you very much.
No,
really enjoyed it despite the technical hitches.
Oh my goodness, it is. It's hard. It's because it's the first time doing it as well.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that everything's perfect, but thankfully now everyone's starting to have the same issues that we had. So now we can answer them. So I've just had some of our team say that, and I was like, we've just gone through that. Fear not, it's okay. We've got it. Yeah. But no, it happens.
Yes, indeed. Have a great day.
You
and
too.
Speak to you again soon.
Speak soon. Have a great one. Bye now. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
I'm sorry, I'm still singing.
Before we start, and just put yourself in a situation because there's a lot of facts and myths talked about data and obviously whether it's good or whether it's bad for you. Imagine you've nearly sold your business and your buyer calls with a few questions and asks, first question, what was the turnover in 2018, 2019 and 2020? Who was the biggest client in 2020? Who is the biggest client in the last 5 years? Which reseller sold the most in the last 3 years? And which reseller sold the least in the last 3 years? How much revenue from your best product did you make in the last 5 years? And multiple questions after that relating to the data that you know that you have, but you're not exactly sure where it is. I mean, it could be in Excel spreadsheets, it could be in Salesforce, it could be in Xero, it could be in a multiple amount of databases. So this is the challenge that a lot of people actually have, and consequently they can, we can actually sort of look and see a little bit about the data and what types of data it is. So I'm going to help you understand a little bit about the types of different data there is. And essentially, we're going to talk today about 3 different types. We've got structured data, unstructured data, and metadata. So let's talk about structured data for a moment. This is usually held in a relationship database. A very well-known one from Microsoft is called the SQL database. Some of you might have actually heard from that or heard about that. Now, what this is doing is it's a typical database, and it's got information like name, your address, the credit card number, perhaps a geolocation, phone numbers, that's both the landline and mobile, maybe even email addresses. So that's pretty easy. That's what we would call structured data. Then we have unstructured data. Now, unstructured data is a little bit different because it doesn't reside in a so-called database, but it could be almost everything else. So what are we talking about? We're talking about rich data and rich media, and that's videos. It could be texts, it could be social media posts, could be CCTV output, could be images. But basically that makes up 80% of all data. So when you think about it, the structured data that you can get your hands on easily is only 20%, but the other unstructured data is 80%. Therefore, if you're making decisions based on the 20%, which a lot of people do, consequently, you're not going to have that complete picture. So what I want to do now is just to talk a little bit very quickly about the third area, and that is metadata. So metadata is essentially information about the data that you've already got. And I'll split that into 3 areas. You'll have descriptive data. So that's things like title, subject, the genre, the author, a creation date maybe. Then something a bit more technical. So the technical size, it could literally be the size of the data itself. If it's a Word doc, for instance, something like that. The date it was created, the time it was created, and any compression information. Because obviously, machines do wonderful things in the background that we don't really have to worry about. And then lastly, in metadata, there's something else called usage. And the usage is essentially the retention and deletion of that data. Certain information we're not allowed to keep. And that is basically information governance, but that's a whole new business. So let's just quickly move on and talk about how big is big data. And I've always been taught to provide a few facts and figures, and I think big data is very worthy of that. So big data at the moment, well, essentially we've got 4.6 billion people use the internet, and that is as of June 21, so it's really up to date. And that is effectively 60% of the global population. Now that means that we've got it doesn't mean, it's just the fact that there are 4.2 billion unique users. Now, guess what? Everyone's thinking, well, we know there's lots of websites, but would you believe there's actually 2 billion websites globally? That's quite a lot. And when you think about it, people often, talk about the USA as being sort of way ahead technically, but quite frankly, the US has only got 8% of the world population. So that might actually give you an idea about all the other people that are using sort of the internet and creating sort of data sort of worldwide. There's over 5.6, I think it's 5.65 actually, billion web pages that are indexed every year by Google, and that's increasing. Google expects to do 2 trillion web searches by the end of 2021. And if we look at data growth, because that's pretty important, that's actually happened in, well, it's on a factor of 30 times of what it was just 10 years ago. So as you can probably see, it's absolutely sort of massive. Some of you might actually know, and you're interested, you've heard about kilobytes and megabytes and gigabytes, but we're going to, and some of you I'm sure would know terabytes, but the one above that is a petabyte. I'm not even going to attempt to try and pronounce how many bytes are in a petabyte, but then you get an exabyte. And actually it's not on there, but I mean, people are now talking about zettabytes as well. And that's a huge amount of data. Now, big data can actually be useful for small businesses as well as large businesses. And I think the whole point here is just understanding is what you use the data for. So what can you do? You can reduce the overall costs. That's pretty straightforward. Sort of if you've got the information, that's going to, it means that you will concentrate on doing the things that are important and valuable. The second one is the increase in sales and revenues. Obviously, everybody wants to increase their revenues. The other thing, it's number three, I suppose, is improves the pricing decisions. If you've got that information, you can make very sound decisions about the price, how you're going to price things, whether it's worth buying, those kind of things. And of course, you know, doing all of those is going to provide competitive advantage. And without doubt, sort of it increases efficiency in your, you know, personal sort of decision making. So let's have a look and see how the data has grown. And this is quite a well-known piece of information from Eric Schmidt, who was the executive chairman of Google. And as you can see, there's a huge amount. I don't need to read it to you, you can read it yourselves, but there's a massive amount of data there. People say it's questionable, actually, because they're now saying it ranges from 5 to 25 exabytes in the new study. And they're saying, so on that basis, even the executive chairman of Google didn't get it quite right. But what we do know is that there's a huge amount. I saw one fact the other day where it said that everything that you create, capture, copied, and consumed comes up to a whopping 79 zettabytes. So if you actually look at what's actually happening to data, what we're going to actually do is create something in the region of 181 zettabytes at the moment. I beg your pardon, it's 79 zettabytes at the moment, and it's going up to 181 zettabytes by 2025. So again, some massive, massive growth there. The question lots of people want to know is, where is that data coming from? So we've got it all, but where is it coming from? And the simple answer is almost everywhere. Transaction processing, for instance, massive, think, I don't know, invoices, online payments, Visa, all of those charge cards, etc. Think financial markets, it creates a whopping amount of information. Stock shares, bonds, derivatives, and you know, almost every other financial instrument. I think that there's a massive amount of information that we know that's there, but there's also an enormous amount that isn't there. So I think we could perhaps go ahead and start looking at three other areas. That's the activity data, the conversation data, and the photo and video and images data. So let's have a quick look. I'm going to speed through this because I'm aware of time. So we've got activity data, and when we think about, you know, well, what is activity data? Well, that could be when we're listening to music. You know, it will know things like Spotify knows what track you've listened to, how often you have, might even suggest similar artists or create playlists for you. If you read ebooks, there'll be suggestions because it knows exactly what you've read. It also knows how fast, and it also knows what's actually in your library. So, you know, absolutely massive. If you look at another area, that could be online shopping, people like eBay, Amazon, you know, these shops, you think it's really straightforward, but I mean, they understand what you buy so they can suggest other things, people who bought this, bought that. So it obviously also realizes if you put it as a favorite. So it's building up a profile of, you know, who you are and what you do. Something sort of little known is the, in the UK anyway, is the London Underground. And they create a ticket called a travel card. Now the travel card will actually log where you've actually swiped in and where you've swiped out. So it can, if they know that someone has, that they're tracking, it could be the police that want to track a particular person, they can see from, something as simple as their travel card, where they went, how long, how long it was the journey, where they got out, where they got in, etc., where they bought the ticket from. So a lot of information hidden sort of within that. And if we think from a more personal side, what about the workout data? Because we all have our phones, we all have our apps, but there are lots of information there as well that we collect. Some of that information is, your metabolic rate, the calories burned, obviously important for a lot of people, cycling distance maybe if you're at the gym, or if you're out cycling outside, your heart rate, the number of minutes of movement, and of course the one that I like is the steps. And I think if you're a rower, you'll probably also appreciate the power side. So let's have a look at the conversation data. I'll do 2 out of the 3, I think, today because of time, but the conversation data, now we're really talking about our conversations that are digitally recorded. You can easily search for keywords, you can extract numbers, telephone numbers, those kind of things. Even from chat box, you can extract everything from, that's been typed into a chat box and try and make sense of that. Email, well, obviously we're leaving a trail when you send an email, and of course the contents can be searched. And of course they're all date and time stamped, and that's something that you can't change. Think of all the conversations that we also have on social media. I mean, it's massive, and Messenger and things like that. So we're giving away information that we don't really think about. Phone conversations, as I've mentioned, can be recorded, but it's just as easy to record a phone conversation yourself. If you're in a meeting, you might put on the record button, record it, and use that to pull out the relative information after the meeting. So I think that's important. Let's have a quick look at the photo, video, and image data, because again, there's an enormous amount of information that we collect on a day-to-day basis. So first and foremost, obviously these files, they can be very large. They've got extensive metadata. We spoke about metadata a moment ago. So what type of things? It could be the file type, could be the file type extension, it could be the modified date, the create date, the image width on the, for the images there, the megapixels, the file sizes, the bits per sample. There's a huge amount. There's also, of course, the raw header data, the file type, and I think image size and image height and category. Some of the, the photography sort of based people would be more interested in that. Now with the videos, videos, my goodness, that's there's hundreds of thousands of videos being uploaded each minute. And when we actually when we take a look, people like YouTube, they have 30,000 videos uploaded every single hour. Can you imagine that? That is, YouTube has 2.3 billion users worldwide. That's absolutely massive. YouTube is, some people don't realize this, but it's actually the second most popular search engine. And of course, YouTube is owned by Google, but a lot of people don't realize that. But then you've got all the other streaming services, your Netflix, your Amazon, BBC, Apple, of course, and lots of others. And, that's a lot of information to be kept. A lot of it's in the cloud, as you probably know. But let's not get into too much of that today. Let's now talk about something which you're going to hear about, called the good old Internet of Things, IoT. Now, IoT has been around for a few years. Some of you may or may not know sort of that much about it, but it refers to a system of interrelated and interconnected objects that are able to collect and transfer data. And they do this over a wireless network without any human intervention or connection. And what that means is that the opportunities are absolutely endless. Think about, you've heard of the so-called smart devices, but anything that is called a smart device is going to connect to the internet, is going to upload or download information. Think about TVs, watches, wearables, fridges, alarms, And again, sometimes you can get some very clever alarms. If any of you use Waze, obviously it will tell you the optimum time, or if there's been an accident or something, it will automatically recalculate what time you need to leave if you told them that you're making a journey the next day. And you can have alarm clocks that will wake you up, and they'll know, if they know where you're going and what's happening, if it's your route to work, they would have figured that out and wake you up a little bit earlier. Then we've got the so-called smart cities and smart buildings. But, you know, as I say, that's a huge amount. Let's take a quick look at sensors now, because sensors make a lot of this technology. It pulls it together and it makes it work very, very well. So sensors are in so many, well, just in so many different devices, you know, large and small, whether it's a coffee machine or whether it's in your car. But I mean, they become really, really clever when they're actually connected to a data SIM. So that's a little SIM, if you've heard of smart metering, that automatically sends the information to your supplier rather than you having to read it. And once a year, someone will come around to make sure that everything's working. But the minute that you add something that's called smart, that's where you start to get everything interconnected. But there's a lot more, you know, there's things like humidity sensors. You know, that includes vents on aircon units in hospitals. There's pressure sensors widely used in the medical profession, even for the older folks who are in bed. You know, if they get up or something happens, a sensor sees what's going on, and if they shouldn't be up and around, obviously it raises an alarm. But then you also have proximity sensors. Now, these are non-contact sensors, you know, you don't have to push a button or anything, but often they're in cars and they're in your phone, for instance. They can detect liquid levels, in fact. And there's all sorts of different level sensors for, you know, for gas, for, you know, for petrol. There's such a lot, you know, and it starts making you think, well, if we know all about that, and, you know, what else is there? So it just opens up the whole world to actually seeing it in a different way. Think about this. You know, I mean, there's accelerometers even in your phone. There's gas detection sensors that we have around the house these days, very easy. Infrared sensors. I think in particular, there was a Lexus car that actually had a sensor that would see whether you were sweating. If you were sweating, it would actually put up the air conditioning, or put down the air conditioning, depending which way you look at it. And it would do that automatically without any intervention. So I think there's, you know, there's absolutely massive opportunity. Something else which is well known is the so-called ANPR, the number plate recognition systems. And that's all automated. Quite often, if you're parking at an airport, they want to know what your number is, so that when you reach the barrier will come up, and, you know, it won't be a problem. But also, you know, it can check to ensure when you went there, what time you left, and that other, you know, other pieces of information. We've also got lane management software. So, you know, in the newer cars, in your Teslas, for instance, it will keep you in the lane, but so do a lot of, you know, very inexpensive cars. They do that every day. So it's absolutely fantastic what can be collected. And this is all to do with sensors. Let's move on. And we're going to talk a little bit about your digital footprint, because digital footprint is obviously important to all of us. We're creating it as we go along. We know how many people have come to the stand that we got, 231 if you want to know, but 231 is the name of the stand, not the number of people that have been there, but we will be told exactly how many people have arrived, how many people looked at some of the information that we've got on show. When Ryan does his session tomorrow, which I wholeheartedly suggest that you attend, we're going to actually sort of talk a lot about some of the measures, some of the things that you can look out for, that you can do for yourself, and start using some of that big data. So the simple answer is that Big Brother really is watching you, but I don't think you need to be sort of that worried. It's there are big pluses and also sort of minuses. I mean, some of the big pluses, facial recognition. If someone does something, they can often sort of recognize who it is just by some of the photos they take. And You've probably seen that in Facebook as well, which, you know, you can actually detect who it is, and it will, you know, put all your photos in order. So I think it's not everything's bad, but I think that there's a huge amount sort of happening in the background that perhaps we don't take into consideration on a day-to-day basis. Let's have another look now, and we're going to move on, and we're going to just talk about what very important question: how do we make data useful? Because it's fine having it, but you know, what are we going to do with it? So I think, as I've mentioned before, it's when you combine tech and data, all of a sudden things start to actually, it starts to provide services and opportunities that weren't there before. Think about this. If you're in a coffee shop, some of the coffee shops have beacons. As you walk through, it senses whether you've actually got your loyalty card. If you've got your loyalty card, it recognizes who you are. It does a quick look up. It will then realize that sort of for 5 days, Monday through Friday, maybe you go into the coffee shop, you have a flat white and maybe a flat jack or something like that. And it will send you a message, and it will say, hey, if you're here for a flat white and a flat jack, you know, just get a reply yes, and then you don't need to queue up. We're already on it. It's very, very simple technology, but when it's put in, it makes a massive, massive difference. But before we can make data useful, we've got to do lots of things to it. We've got to validate and cleanse it. No point in having sort of, you know, rubbish data, because it's not going to give us the information that we want. We need to automate, if we can possibly can, and the answer is we usually can, the most repetitive data tasks. So something else that you must think about doing is stop extracting data manually from different applications and then combining it. Quite often people take information from various spreadsheets regularly on a weekly or a monthly basis. They pull it all together into another spreadsheet, and then they try and create graphs and diagrams, perhaps for a management meeting or something. But I think it's really important to realize that all of that can be automated and save huge times and, well, obviously a lot of money as well. So something that I would recommend also is stop saying or thinking that you are data driven, because 99% of people that I talk to really aren't data driven. They've got subsets of it, but you know, they're really not doing as much as they could with the data that they can have access to. And I think the last thing before I talk about social media and things like that, social media data, is that you need to start using data for some of those insights, because once you've got insights, you can do lots of other things as well with those insights. And that's really, really important. So let's just move on to the social media data. Talk a little bit about that. There we go. Let's just keep it lovely. Well, probably no surprises that there's a huge user base, using sort of social media data. And because there's so many people, billions, as you know, and if each of them creates one document a day and lots of people are creating many, many other documents, that's all going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The data collected by social media can be lots of different things. It could be the clicks, it could be the comments, it could be the reach, it could be the shares, it could be something like video views, it could be video reach, or even keyword, the influencers, who's following you. Really good with Facebook is a great example, but other companies do this too. Facebook does it particularly well, but they can actually create a Facebook audience, or indeed a lookalike audience, once it knows that your audience is right. And this is usually for advertising and those kind of things. So there's what can you actually sort of create? Well, it will look for the demographic. Well, these are some of the things it can look for. There's a whole heap, and it would take too long to explain them all, but you can look at your demographic, it can look at the gender, it can look at the age group, it can look at your job title, it can look at relationship status, it can look at your hobbies, it can look to see what pages you like. And that's great for targeting your ideal customer. And I think that's, just so important. Data's everywhere, it's how we use it. Facebook, like them or like it or lump it, they do a great job of taking that data, figuring out how you can use it, and figuring out that they can actually sell lots and lots of advertising. But it's not just Facebook, that's creating the data. there's things like wearables, your laptop and PC with all the applications that are on there, your home. Medical is another very large one. Tax, everything's automated. Everyone knows, they need to do their tax return. You can do it online. Credit bureaus love you because they're just collecting data about you day in and day out. And guess what? They're selling that to the banks, and they'll decide sort of what they're going to do with it. But there's no point in using data, if it's worthless, and it's only going to be worthless if it's not correct. So let's have a look at a few more areas, I think, where we can talk about, talk about the data, because data is absolutely everywhere. And I think that I'm going to skip this slide actually and just talk a little more because we're kind of running out of time anyway. I'm going to talk about what we can do with our data. That's what I'm going to talk about right now. So what we've got to do is, well, let's think about the data and where it comes from. And in fact, I'm going to just quickly move on so that we've still got 15 minutes, and I think that's important. So let's talk about data collection. So that's, it's great knowing that you've got the data, but if you don't know exactly where it is, that's going to be a problem. So what we would ask you to do is to identify where your data is so that, we as a service company can actually start doing the things to make your data valuable, so you can actually pull out those data insights. So we want to know, obviously, and you should know what systems you're using, how it's created. Also, it's great having that data, but we need to understand, and you would need to tell us or anybody else what you're actually going to do with it. So whether there are any kind of calculations, often that's called a measure. And we basically say, well, a measure could be anything. It could be take 3x. We download this from Salesforce, this from another old CRM, and this from our account systems, and we suck it all together and we put them into 3 different tabs in a spreadsheet, and then we create a 4th tab where we pull it all together. And then what we do is we add up a column, and then we create an average. And if we're doing all of that, that's effectively a measure. And I think that that's important because this is a data rule, if you like. So it's great that we've got it. But what are we going to do now? Well, it's just so important when you start looking at big data starts to get really, really interesting when you start to consolidate it. I hinted at that sort of earlier, but I mean, obviously, for so many people, it's a manual process. And I think that, we've got to try and stop doing these manual processes because they're prone to having problems. But, of course, the other thing is that if we automate these, it will happen at machine speed. And I think that's really, really important. So one of the messages that we give to you today is consolidate your data, or that's what we would do for you. Let's talk a little bit about a subject that you've all heard of, and that's called digital transformation. This is doing the rounds. It's been doing the rounds for a long while, actually, and digital transformation is no surprise because we're dealing with tech. It means that, what's happening over a year is everything's changing. Things are being updated. What wasn't possible a year ago is hugely possible sort of, this year. What we can do is, and we've done for a lot of people, is we can modernize some of those old reports. Just imagine if you've got a system that might be 20 years old. If it's 20 years old, the chances are the reporting isn't going to be that great. And just imagine if we were able to take that data, consolidate it with something else, and to provide you with a single dashboard. Could have certain, several tabs, but we could transfer that into a amazing interactive dashboard for the reports. And what's one of the benefits of doing that? Well, it will provide your users or your customers, it could be the end user after all, with a much better customer experience. And I think that's, again, something that every company is actually looking to do. So I'm just going to move on quickly. Now, one of the challenges is that when we start looking at data, one of the things that actually happens is that data comes in all shapes and sizes and formats. And so, as you can see, sort of with this this slide, just taken from an Excel spreadsheet, really, and it was just looking at the simple fact that January the 1st, 2021 could be, well, that's an example of what it would look like, but you could actually put that as 01/01/21 or 01 Jan 21 or 01 Jan 2021. And if you're pulling information in lots of different ways, of course, but if you're pulling information and you're consolidating it, the computer isn't as intelligent as you think. It will only be intelligent if it's got the right information. So there's a piece called transformation. So we're transforming all of that information, perhaps in a slightly different format, and making sure that we can pull it together and so it can be used in the future. And that this is something which people don't probably realize to begin with. It's only when you talk to them that they realize that some of these things are happening are actually quite, they can be quite difficult to do. And who wants to do all of this manually? I don't think many people actually, start off in the morning thinking, gosh, I'd like to do this manually. So we can automate all of that. And again, the great news is that once we've automated it once, it will, that's all you need to do. Just to give you some examples. Now, the little dashboard that you can see there, in fact, it's got a bunch of, I don't know if you can see, but it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, actually 6 tabs on it, a little bit like an Excel spreadsheet. But look at this information. It's very easy to read. That actually came out, as an example, it came out of an old Lotus, very old Lotus system where it was impossible. You could export the data. There was no SQL, so we had to export that to an Excel CSV file and then import it and then transform the data. But all of a sudden, we were getting reports that people would have had to have spent thousands and thousands of pounds just to change the look and feel of their reporting. And when you think about it, if something's 20 years old, that's a long time. So there are, quite a few other examples. I'm just going to show you there. But I think so to begin with, I mean, when you think about it, sort of how can we use this data? Well, marketing companies can predict, what they might want to be selling sort of in a few years or a year or a few months, whatever it might be. Who are their buyers? And they do that with all the information. I mentioned finance and banking a little earlier on, but that's for the banks are interested on the loan side. They're going to do a credit check. You'll get credit scored, whether you like it or not. But that's information which is available to everyone. You can actually get your own credit file and have a look. It's very useful for credit card fraud because you can see patterns emerging, and you can set high level alerts if certain conditions happen. Obviously, for overdraft, I think all of that's calculated automatically now. There's a big algorithm sitting in the background. What about manufacturing companies? If they're getting faulty items returned, they can swap that really, really quickly. And perhaps if they've got 3 or 4 different depots or something like that, one might know, but the others might not, until you consolidate that data and you realize that there's a manufacturing challenge that needs to be sorted. Governments, well, I mean, government, they've got this wonderful AML, anti-money laundering tracking that they do. There's a huge amount that goes in the background that we don't see. HMRC and tax, and of course VAT. I probably don't need to describe that, but just think of the information they've already got about you and your business. We mentioned about Facebook and their ability to laser target your so-called ideal client. HR is another interesting one because, again, lots of moving parts there. So I think that's really, really important. Let's quickly move on. Talk a little bit. I'm going to finish this in 6 minutes, so that's why I'm rushing through. But what can we do? What are some of the benefits? Well, we've hinted that there may be improved decision making. This is actually massive for a lot of people. Once they pull their information together, they just didn't know. That was the so-called aha moment. And they realized that what they were doing didn't actually make a lot of sense before, when they pulled in all of the so-called unstructured data. But of course, it's going to give you that 360 degree view of your data. It's a single view of your business. And that's just so important. Sometimes people have duplicate systems. If they've merged with another company, maybe they've got 2 CRMs and 2 monitoring systems and, you know, warehouse systems or whatever. So pulling all that information together and making sense of it is really, really important. Marketing, you know, being able to track sort of marketing campaigns, which campaigns work best, which didn't work best, which links were actually clicked. We're all used to seeing that with email marketing, but over a period of time, certain patterns emerge. Obviously, website analytics as well, very interesting. There's a lot of information that we don't know about our website. Some of it, you know, the webmaster might know, but perhaps, you know, you don't get your hands on that. So which pages were most responsive, which were least responsive, how long did people stay on a page? Sales metrics, again, another area that hugely benefits from pulling data together. It can actually also, when you factor in costs, not just sales, and all of a sudden you can see sort of which region or which person is actually doing better than most. It will also absolutely help you it will increase your customer service and the whole customer service experience. And I think that's very, very important. Of course, you can also, with all of this information, it just means that you can tailor your services and your solutions or products and give that to people that they want. You can do surveys and find out. And if you're doing it over a period of time, you're building up a lot of very useful data. I think there are a couple of other areas as well. We all see that. I think it's been highlighted in the good old Dragon's Den, where Peter Jones will ask some difficult questions about numbers. They're not so difficult if you've actually got it all together. But again, the vast majority of people don't. And if Peter Jones doesn't do it, Sarah Meaden will as well. So I think that there's a lot of questions about the data that you have. Wouldn't it be much better if we could actually just see it in one place? So let's move on. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking information like you can see sort of over here, sort of on a just a regular report that obviously was digital at one stage. We can take that digital feed, pull it together, do some lovely things with it. We can then create some interactive dashboards. And it isn't, I think one of the things that people assume is that this is only for large companies. It really, really isn't. It was a few years ago, but now it's a little bit different. There's so much that can be done, and it doesn't cost. When you figure out what you're saving elsewhere and what you can do that you couldn't do before, it becomes what some people would call a no-brainer. This is typically, it's just an example of a typical dashboard where you can layer sort of different information. You can layer years. In this particular one, there's no searching sort of over a date period, but wouldn't it be great if you could, if all of a sudden you could slice the data and sort of pull it together so once it's sliced, so you could do it over a period of time or by a particular project or a project manager. The bottom line is that the data's there, but for most people, it's not very easy to actually pull out great insights from it. So I'm just going to leave you with that. I would thoroughly recommend tomorrow jumping into the session. Ryan, my colleague, is going to take you through a workshop where you can actually look at some of the things. You can figure it out. He's going to really help you and give you a bunch of checklists where you can look to see what the information that you might have or might need to get going. Because once you realize what you can do with it, the rest is going to be easy. There might be a little bit, it would happen over a 2, 3 or 4 week period for your first one, But obviously what usually happens is people start seeing those so-called measures, and then they want, they want another one and another one and another one. So I hope that 45 minutes was useful to you. I know that we haven't got so many people on this call because we started a little bit late, but we're very happy to take questions by email. My name's Mike Palman, and it's mikepalman@greenplane.co.uk. You can always phone me as well if you want on 44 for the UK 7899 115 660. I look forward to seeing you at Ryan's workshop as well tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. That was great. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave, and if anyone wants to talk to me, that's fine. We'll find a way. Okay, thank you once again. Cheers.
Have a great afternoon now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Joe, are you on right now?
I am indeed, John. Hello.
Hello.
You should be co-host now, John.
Okay, I can share my screen.
You can indeed, yes. Oh, fabulous.
Can you see my screen?
I can indeed, yes. It looks fantastic. Right. Perfect.
So Joe, are we going to wait a little bit for people, or what are we going to do?
Well, we're currently live, so you have people watching in the seminar rooms.
Okay.
So you can start whenever you feel ready.
It's just you and I right now.
Oh, you've got watchers. They're just in the seminar rooms.
So you have the introduction for me, correct?
Oh, sorry, I'm just stopping everything. The introduction. Excuse, my voice is gone. You'll have to forgive me. Can you hear me okay?
Or do you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, I've not been given an introduction.
So they never sent you the introduction?
No, I've not received the introduction. Greatest apologies. I didn't realize. I'll speak to them and see why they didn't send it over. This isn't recording. Is there a copy, or would you like to tell me?
Okay, so I'll just introduce myself since you don't have the introduction. So tell me when we're ready.
Okay, all right. So I'll let you know. I'll be 2 moments. Okay, perfect. That's you ready to go. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm John Scholl. I speak and write on customer service, have for the last 40 some years. I wrote the world's first customer service training program. It was released in January of 1980, before many of the viewers were born. And I have been speaking and writing on customer service longer than anybody in the world. I've written 8 different books on customer service. I have over 20 different customer service training programs that companies can use to develop their people to become customer service driven. So the purpose of this presentation today is to talk about how to create a service culture. And there are 3 core areas that I talk about. Number 1 is strategy. If you miss the strategy, nothing's going to happen. Probably the biggest weakness in most companies is they don't understand strategy, which is how do you own the market? How do you dominate the market? There's 3 ways you can grow your business. You can go to your local TV station, radio station, social media outlet. You can spend $100,000 a month. It goes out very, very fast. If you have that kind of money, you don't need to be watching this presentation. The other thing is you can go to your local bank and you can borrow several $100,000 or several $1 million, and you could do capital renovation. Customer service is all built on word of mouth advertising, creating an experience so remarkable, people feel compelled to come back and refer everybody else to your place of business. So strategy is how do you own and dominate the market? How do you cut the throat of your competition and leave them for dead on the street as you're growing your business rapidly? That's really what Amazon has done. Leadership means that your entire leadership team, everybody in management, has to understand that you're in the customer service business. Most companies think that they're in the retail business, hospitality business, software business, digital marketing. They don't understand that their business is all built around customer service. And you got to figure out how to manage and motivate your employees. And that's a real weakness because most managers are not good at managing and motivating the employees. And then the third is we need the tools on how do you create this service culture, whether you got 10 employees or 200 or 20,000, how do you change the behaviors and attitudes to get everybody customer driven? We're going to talk about these 3 things during today's presentation. And there's 9 principles that I want to talk about on how to create a service culture. Number 1, which is the relentless strategy. You can't focus on this for a couple of years. It has to be a culture. It has to be a lifetime commitment. And with COVID-19 is most firms in the United States, which is where I live, gave up on customer service. Vail used to be the top ski resort in the world for customer service, and I'd rate them a 10. Today, I'd rate them a 1 or a 2. I mean, they just totally disappeared. So this strategy has to be through good and bad, and it has to be a lifetime culture. That's where most firms disappear. They focus on this stuff for a few years, and then they're done. And then the second thing we're going to talk about is you got to reduce the friction. You got to make it easy for people to do business with you. And most organizations have a lot of crazy policies, rules, systems. Their hours are not convenient to the customer. It's difficult to do business with them. If you want to grow your business, you got to reduce the friction. And then third is empowerment. Whether you got 10 employees again, or 40 or 400, everybody has to be able to make empowered decisions on the spot in favor of the customer. Empowerment means you're bending the rules, you're breaking the rules, you're doing whatever you got to do on the spot to keep the customer happy. If you have over happy customers, you own the market. And then the third thing, or the fourth thing, brothers, you got to have speed. You know, you could have all this empowerment, but people want things today fast. They don't want to wait. And organizations are slow. The mindset of employees are slow. And then we have crazy policies and systems and procedures that are slow. And then the fifth is you got to train and develop all employees on customer service. So to just have all this other stuff is great. But again, whether you got 50 employees or 200 or 2,000, everybody has to be trained on the art of customer service with something new and fresh virtually every 4 months. We keep thinking that we can dip Charlie in this little magic program or Sally, and they're going to go through maybe, let's say, a 1-day training program in customer service. And the average age, let's say, of your employees is 26 years old. And all of a sudden, instantly, everybody's going to change their behavior and become perfect. It's just not going to happen. So it has to be an ongoing process, and we're going to cover this. And then I think I teach laser surgery. How do you go in and really own the customer, dominate the market? And when you go to your local dry cleaner, your bank, your supermarket, your retail store, your hotel, how often do they use your name? Do they really care about your name? And I think most organizations don't care about your name. And then the next item is service recovery. When you screw up, and we all screw up, we all make mistakes, how do we save the customer? How do we recover the customer after we bomb? And then the eighth thing is we got to reduce costs. In London and in the UK, I think everything's expensive. I mean, really expensive, maybe double the cost of almost anything in the United States, at least at the minimum 25% more. In the United States, price is really, really important. I don't see that as imperative in the UK. And I think price is paramount. And the only way to have a better price is to reduce your cost of operation. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we got to measure results. So all this sounds good, but if you don't know what the results are, you're going to forget about it. You're going to say this is a lot of work and there's very little return on investment. So let's get into the 9 principles of how we create a service culture. And there's going to be 4 companies that I talk about today. One is Amazon, which in my opinion is the most customer-driven company in the world. We're going to talk about Vernon Hill. He is a banker that understands customer service better than any other banker in the world. He founded Metro Bank in London. Salesforce, which is a technology company, and Chewy.com, which sells pet food. So Vernon Hill wrote a book called Fans, Not Customers. And he said, relentless must be your core operating principle. Serve your customer above all things. And he said, customers rule, they pay our salaries. Vernon Hill, I've worked with for probably 20 years now. He is relentless when it comes to creating the customer focus. And he started Commerce Bank in 1973 with 7 employees. He sold the bank in 2007 when they had 10,000 employees. They sold it for about $8.5 billion. He made about $400 million on the sale himself. If you had invested, $10,000 back in 1973 with Commerce Bank when it was sold, it would have been worth several $1 million in 2007. He started Metro Bank on July 29, 2010 with 40 employees. Today, they have 3,550 employees. If you look at the photograph here, that's his house on the left. He has the largest house in New Jersey. And he is relentless. He has absolutely a better grasp of the customer experience than any banker I've ever seen or talked to in my life. And he believes in 7-day banking. He said, convenience means we are open for customers' convenience, not ours. Now, one of the local banks that I do business with here in Minneapolis just changed its hours and said, because of COVID, we decided to close at 3 o'clock in the day. I thought that only happened in the UK. I can't believe a bank could be so stupid that they close at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's crazy. So at Metro Bank, they're open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays. So the question I have for you with all the banks that you have, because everybody has a bank. And one of the reasons I liked working with Vernon Hill is he always shares his financial data, number one. And number two, most people hate their bank. Most people have problems with banks. Most banks are not very customer driven. They don't understand the customer experience. So convenience is one of the core aspects, okay? Earlier we talked about you got to reduce the friction. You got to make it convenient for people to do business with you. If you have hours that are open that are convenient to the customer, you're going to be able to get more customers. And they only close 3 days a week. Now, I know that a lot of banks around the world close on holidays. So they close for Christmas and Easter, and I think it's New Year's Day. They're open 78 hours a week. And I like the terminology here because they say that's because we are in the account opening business, which means taking business away from the competition. In that picture, by the way, is Vernon Hill, his wife Shirley, who does all the design, and their dog Duffy. Now, I need you to think about your business. When we talk about strategy, they're open 78 hours a week. How many hours a week is your business open? Are you open hours convenient to your customers, or are you open hours convenient to yourself or to your employees? So convenience is one of the core elements of great customer service. And if you're in the UK or another part of the world, the question I have is this what your lobby looks like? So if you go into a Metro Bank, this is what their lobbies look like. They're very, very attractive. And then another question, because I've been to the UK many times, is this what your bank looks like? And a lot of the banks, have these double glass doors, security, and well, if you go to a Metro Bank store, by the way, if you are another part of the UK, when you go to London and the next time, stop at a Metro Bank store, take a look at it. It's easy to open an account. You can do it in 10, 15 minutes. They really understand the customer experience. So what's the result? What happens when you deliver a better customer experience? So July of 2000 2010 is when they started, and deposits today as of December 31 are $22.28 billion. So they increased deposits in 10 years, $22 billion. Total loans are $16.75 billion. And by the way, I'm using dollars, not pounds. So, dollars are much less valuable than the pounds. Total assets are $31 billion. They added 106,000 new customers for the last quarter. And the average deposit growth per store is about $8.3 million. And it costs about $3 million to open up a brand new store with the packaging and design that they do. It's very, very expensive. Now, another company that is very customer driven is Amazon. Jeff Bezos, when he started the company in 1995, he said, our number one goal is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. Well, if you really buy into the service strategy, I'd like you to take this slide, take the words, put your photograph in there, change the name to your company, and then just say our number one goal is to be the Earth's most customer-centric company. And then build a whole platform, build a strategy around that. That's what Amazon did. He started with 2 employees in 1995. Now, they have 1.3 million employees now. They added over 300,000 employees last year. Sales increased last year 38%, $105.5 billion. Okay, that is a heck of a huge increase. Net sales last year were $386 billion. That was up from $232 million the previous year. You can go online, you can chat with them, you can email them, you can call them. Jeff Bezos is considered America's most innovative leader. When he enters a business, the value of the other business dramatically declines because they know that he's going to have speed, he's going to have technology, he's going to have price, he's going to have all of the other elements of great customer service. And if you look at the UK, Amazon Business, just Amazon Business in the UK, last year topped 300 million pounds. Finally, I'm using some pounds. They grew 50% a year since starting in 2017 in the UK. That's with Amazon Business. They serve more than 50% of the Financial Times stock exchange companies, the top 100, all of the 15 largest universities, 85% of the biggest cities, and over a third of the 15 largest hospitals. That's Amazon.com UK. I believe that Amazon is the most relentless company in the world. And over the last 21 years, their stock has grown from $1.50 a share to today, it's $3,585 per share. It's up over 176,000%. So one of the reasons that I would encourage it, because when I talk about strategy, when you work with your leadership team, you got to talk numbers. So if you go in and say, we're going to focus on customer service because it'll make us feel good, it's not going to do any good. You got to relate to numbers. Okay. That's why I always use numbers. When Time Magazine quoted me in their cover story on customer service years ago, they have one quote in there from me. And I said, the only thing that motivates a CEO is hard numbers. Show me the money. Okay. So if you're going to be relentless, you've got to understand numbers. You got to be able to track the financial numbers. And I think Bezos is relentless. He has returned remarkable shareholder value. When you can dramatically increase sales, you dramatically improve the value of the business. And this is probably my favorite slide. And it's reduce the friction. He says, if you want more of something, reduce the friction. I mean, it's so simple. And then he also says, by the way, if you want less of something, increase the friction. Well, I think most companies have a lot of friction. They have hours that are difficult to operate with. They have employees that are not empowered. They have crazy policies, systems, procedures. So if you want to grow your business, if you want more of something, as Jeff says, reduce the friction. And he is now worth about $200 billion. He is the wealthiest person in the world. He has just retired as the CEO of Amazon. And now he was just launched into space yesterday. And he's got a new company called Blue Origin that he is funded. He's still, the principal largest single shareholder in Amazon. But he understands the complete relentless focus on customer service. It's an obsession. And this is since 1995. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is to read the annual report for Amazon every year. It's really, really good. If you want me to send you my highlighted copy, send me an email at john@servicequality.com and I'll send it to you. But I think you'll learn a lot from one of the most successful people in the world. And that's Jeff Bezos. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the UK or the United States, Amazon is the master of customer service. And then another company that delivers results is Salesforce. Mark Benioff is the founder and the CEO. And he said, values aren't worth much unless they translate into behavior and are brought to life. Here's a guy that really understands the customer experience. He understands technology. He understands speed. And he's willing to invest in his people. He's willing to invest in the marketplace. And Mark said, nothing is more important than how a company engages with its customers. So, if you want to track a company that's got, this 8,000% increase in the value of its stock, Mark Benioff at Salesforce would be one of the best companies to track and to take a look at that. And then another company I like to talk a lot about that really understands the customer experience is Chewy.com. And I went onto the internet to just check out competitors in the UK, and I really didn't see anybody as aggressive or as effective as Chewy in the UK. And they do things that other companies wouldn't do. So they send out millions of handwritten cards every year to the pet owners. Now, if you were to talk to Vernon Hill, he loves his dog, Duffy, as much as he loves his wife. My wife raises show dogs. She probably loves her dogs more than she loves her husband. So you got to understand, for a pet owner, whether it be a cat, a dog, whatever it is, people love their pet. So when you get a handwritten card on the birthday of your pet, it tells the customer that you love their pet. And then they have staff artists that create oil paintings of their pets, and they send them free to the customers. All this is free. They have hundreds of people doing handwritten cards. This is not an electronic thing. This is handwritten cards. The value. So let's talk about the numbers. So all this stuff costs money. The value went from 0 to over $30 billion in just 6 years. And now they're worth over $35 billion. They had a 31.7% increase in sales in the first quarter of this year. Net sales for the last 3 months were $2.14 billion. So when you deliver this awesome customer experience, when you can create a service culture, the revenue starts to climb very dramatically. So the purpose of focusing on a service culture, just so you don't just feel good, is so that you can deliver a better product to your customer and own the marketplace, dominate the marketplace. And that's really what we're talking about. So I think Chewy is a great role model, and it became the most trusted and convenient online destination for pet parents. And the team continues to execute well against a strategy of long-term sustainable growth and margin expansion. That's what Sumit Singh, the CEO of Chewy, said. I have a friend of mine that loves Chewy and orders Chewy food. And she said, keeping the customer at the center of everything we do is the core of our mission. So Ryan Cohen, who founded Chewy in 2011, calls himself obsessive, relentless, and contrarian. And he sold the company to PetSmart in 2017 for $3.35 billion. And as my friend who uses Chewy, and I asked her, why do you use Chewy? He says, because they love your pet as much as you do. And I think that's really the theme. So here's and by the way, let me just call Chewy.com right second. Let's just see. Oh, I gotta turn my Bluetooth off here. Okay, we're gonna call Chewy and we'll just see what happens when you call Chewy.
Thanks for calling Chewy. To ensure you receive top-notch service, this call may be monitored or recorded. This is Taylor speaking. How can I help you today?
Well, Kaylee, I'm doing a presentation in the UK right now live, and I just wanted to show them what a great service leader does. And so you answered the call in one ring, and you got a live person who does a nice job.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
So I suspect if I called most companies in the UK, they don't answer with a live person in one ring. So maybe that's another market for you to go to, is the UK.
Oh my goodness, thanks so much. Yeah, we literally one ring or maybe two the latest, but yeah, you're never going to be on hold too long here.
And where are you located?
So we are located in Hollywood, Florida.
Okay, Hollywood, Florida. Okay, so it's about 10:30 in the morning down there.
Yes, it is.
How many people in your call center right now?
Not too many, due to the pandemic. They only have just a few of like the training classes and a couple of like the big dogs in here, and then everyone else is at home because of it.
How many people do you think are at home right now answering calls if needed?
Oh my goodness, thousands and thousands and thousands.
Okay.
It's so many of us.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Well, I hope you have a great conference and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, now, the interesting thing is if I called one of your companies in the UK, would I get the same caliber of a call? Would somebody answer the phone in one ring? See, convenience is core. The customer experience is core. I talked about being relentless. I talked about reducing the friction. Make it easy for people to buy from you. Make it easy for people to do business from you. And by the way, Chewy.com is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I could call them at 2 o'clock in the morning. I could call them at 11 o'clock at night, and they're going to answer in one ring with a live person. And that's the challenge I have for you. If you've got 5 or 10 employees, you probably are unable to answer the call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But if you're going to have at least 100 employees, you should be having a call center environment where you can answer the call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if any of you have IVR technology, that's the phone system that says push 1 for this, push 2 for this, and push 7 to go to hell. It's the most expensive piece of technology you'll ever own. My recommendation is you donate it to your most favorite competitor. So one of the core skills that we teach is empowerment, is giving employees the authority to do whatever it takes on the spot. My definition is I want an employee to be able to make a decision on the spot in favor of a customer. If the customer is not happy, you lose. If the customer is not satisfied, you lose. So you got to have over happy customers. If you have over happy customers, your competition is screwed. There's no chance they can survive. Okay. And the most important person in your company is the little frontline person. Okay. Like this young girl that just answered the phone, it's that kind of an attitude that you're looking for in order to have the right people. And then another core skill that I think is critical to creating a service culture is you got to have speed. And we have 2 problems with speed. Number one is the mindset of most employees is slow. Most employees know that if you got 3 days, I'll wait until the 3rd day, and then they're going to say, I didn't know it was going to rain. I didn't know it was going to snow. I didn't know there would be traffic. So the mindset we have with virtually all employees is slow. And then we have to work on empowerment. So empowerment increases speed. If a person says, let me talk to my manager, that decreases speed. You want a person to be able to say on the spot, I'll take care of it. And by the way, when we talk about empowerment, most decisions are under 25 pounds. And many decisions don't even require any money at all. So what you want to do is teach employees the skills and the art of empowerment, the skills and art of speed, so that people are moving 10 times faster. When I talk about speed, I'm talking about how do we dramatically reduce the time it takes to get things done by at least 90%. And so the barriers are your company's policies, procedures, and available technology. So we have many crazy policies and procedures. Now, if you look at Chewy.com, they have a policy that says we're going to answer the phone in one ring, and they use technology to make sure that it's available. And they have, as with the pandemic, they have people working out of their home. So they're not located at a central headquarters right now, but they're on the phone. Okay, and they got all the technology at their fingertips. So it's just not in our nature to act and think with speed. So think about when you were in college and the professor on Monday morning said, we're going to have a test Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning. When did you start studying for the test? Was it Thursday night or was it Friday morning? Usually we wait, just the habit of people. We wait and we wait and we wait. Speed mindset is what would happen if you had, let's say, 30 employees or 300 employees, and everybody was thinking speed. What would happen if everybody went 10 times faster than everybody else? Customers today expect speed. Now, I tend to blame Bezos at Amazon for creating the demand for speed. I mean, he is just light years ahead of every other company. He has forced his major competitors to deliver speed, whether it be Best Buy or Target or Walmart. You know, if I want something, I could order it today on Amazon. I could have it delivered today on Amazon, and I can do that 7 days a week. So when I talk about speed again, we're talking about how to reduce the time by 90%. And let me just check here. Okay. So let's go to the next element, which is training. I think it has to be a corporate priority. And I'm talking about training people on customer service. How do we exceed and deliver this awesome customer experience? I believe in the US and the UK, there's not one person that does not understand the importance of customer service. They just don't do it. It just doesn't happen, okay? So you got to keep stuff fresh in their mind. It's just like we're getting into the Olympics right now. And these kids that are in the Olympics have been practicing for 3 years, 4 years, 6, 7, 8 hours a day for a 60-second routine. And they have to be flawless. And it'll be interesting as we watch the Olympics, you will see some people make mistakes. So they train constantly and they have coaches, okay? So if we're going to develop high-performing people, we have to train people on customer service, and it better be with something new and fresh virtually every 90 days. You can't put Mary or George through some magic program, or Alex, and all of a sudden they're going to change their life. Let's say they're 25 years old and they're instantly going to be perfect. Or maybe they're 45 years old and they go through, let's say, one of Service Quality Institute's training programs on customer service. If you think that we're going to change a person and make them perfect for the rest of their life because they went through one magic program, it's not going to happen. It has to be a process. You have to be relentless. You have to continue doing it on a constant basis. And let's move to the next slide here. And what I believe we got to do is create a service culture. And to do that, I believe you need something fresh and new constantly. And as soon as you slow down, it dies. So that's where that graph is. So, you know, I've been at this longer than anybody in the world. And what I notice is that companies, you know, some of them buy one program and then they're done. Some people do it for 2 or 3 years using our service culture plans, and then they're done. You can't let up. You have to have a constant focus on changing behaviors and attitudes. And we use a disruptive technology. We change attitudes and behavior. I think if you can't change attitudes and behavior, you're at ground zero. Nothing's going to happen. Because intellectually, everybody already knows customer service is important. And then the second thing is that you got to teach the skills and fundamentals of great customer service. And then you got to improve employee morale and teamwork. So the fundamentals and skills, it only takes 3 seconds and you can tell if somebody cares or doesn't care. Think about the girl that was on Chewy.com a few minutes ago. Her attitude just went all over the phone lines. It was amazing. And then we got to pump up employees. We got to keep them motivated and turned on. Vernon Hill at all of his banks has one simple rule when they're hiring, and that's hire for attitude and train for skills. And if there's no smile on the initial interview, there's no second interview. Think about that. No smile on the first interview, there is no second interview. So it's easier to teach people skills than to change attitudes. And then one of the other principles that I talk about is you got to use the customer's name. You got to remember the customer. And the question I have for you, whether you have a hotel, you know, does the bellman remember your name? Does the maid remember your name? If you have a retail store, do you remember the customers? If you have a software company, do you remember the customer's name and use their name? Your name is one of the most precious assets that you have. It's like a diamond. It's a high value. And the key is you gotta, number one, remember the customer's name, and then number two, you gotta use the customer's name. And if you don't know the customer's name, just ask. Just say, good morning, sir. My name is John Scholl. What is yours? Oh, it's George. George, welcome to our store. George, how can I be of help? I don't think I've met you before. Or if you can't remember the customer's name, say, you know, I apologize. My name is John, but I can't remember your name and I see you in here a lot. Oh, it's Mike. Mike, it's great to have you here. And we have a training program called Remember Me that teaches people how to remember the customer's name. So there's 3 core reasons we don't use the customer's name. Number one is indifference. We don't really give a damn. We really don't care. Most employees don't care. Most companies don't care. And then the second reason is fear. I don't know how to say Scholl, so I'm not going to use the guy's name. But there's John. I have a lot of people that call me John. They can't pronounce Scholl. They can't spell Scholl. So because of fear, and if you are, a lot of the people in India, for example, they have unusual names. Even some of the people in the UK have unusual names. So there's this fear factor. And then the third is lack of training. I would say that 99.9% of all employees have never been trained on why you got to use a customer's name and how do you remember the customer's name. So it's really, really important. So visualize if you had a restaurant that you went to, and every time you went there, they remembered your name. And you check in, the hostess is there, and they say, Liz, it is so great to see you again. Your table is ready, Liz. And then the waiter comes up and says, good afternoon, Liz. It's great to see you. You want the same drink as last time? And if, let's say that, I'll bet you in the UK, there's probably 5 or 10 restaurants within a few blocks of each other. What would happen if there was one restaurant that always remembered your name, that always used your name? Where would you go more often? And when you had friends to take them out for lunch or dinner, where would you go? It's really a very simple concept that we're talking about. And you can train people on the art of customer service. Service Quality Institute has a training program called Remember Me, if anybody's interested, that you can use to train and develop your people on the skills and the art of customer service. So I just think it's laser surgery. And then the next thing is you got to have service recovery. When we make a mistake, we got to own up to it. We all screw up sometime during the week. usually sometimes during the day. Every company makes mistakes. I don't care how committed you are. What do you do to save yourself? So I have a program called Loyal for Life, a book called Loyal for Life, on how do you take a customer from hell to heaven in 60 seconds or less? And it has to happen in 60 seconds. The magic is what happens in 60 seconds. So what you don't want to do is move the complaint up the chain of command. You want the employee at the point of contact to be able to handle service recovery. So there's 4 critical steps I teach. Number 1, act quickly. The employee at the point of contact has to do this. You cannot afford to move a problem up the chain of command. You just want the employee instantly to be able to make it happen. And then number 2, take responsibility. In the United States, I'd say that at least 80% of employees lie and run for cover. So all you got to do is apologize. Don't place blame. Don't say it's those guys in accounting. It's the salespeople. It's in shipping. Just take responsibility. Obviously, we screwed up, and don't place blame. Don't fault somebody. Thank the customer for pointing out the problem. Most importantly, don't lie like Americans do to cover up a mistake. I'm sure that would never happen in the UK. And don't point out a customer's misunderstanding. And don't pass the blame off to another employee or to the organization. Now, I can count on one hand in my lifetime how many times I've seen an employee take responsibility. It's no big deal. We're just talking about great customer service. And then you got to be able to make an empowered decision. That is the backbone of great service. All this has to happen in 60 seconds. You don't have time to move it up the chain of command. You don't have time to get your boss involved. You want to be able to make a fast decision in favor of the customer on the spot. If you have an over-happy customer, your competition doesn't have a chance. And then the 4th is we got to compensate. We got to give something away of value. And every one of us, every company has things of high value, low cost. So if I'm a supermarket and somebody brings in some, or it says I bought a pound of apples and some of them were rotten, it should be easy for the employee to say, I apologize. Let me refund you the pound of apples, but while you're here, why don't you take an extra pound of apples on us? Now, the cost of a pound of apples might be, let's say, $3. What's $3? A person came in, they've been inconvenienced, they bought apples that weren't good. So all of us have things of high value. If I'm in the software business and we screwed up somehow, we have always additional software that we could give away free that has high value, low cost. And so the question is, what are the products or services that you have that have high value? If I have a hotel and a guy comes down to the front desk in the morning and says, you know, this is not working out. The room above me last night was really noisy. The people were just making a tremendous amount of noise. They were, I don't know, drinking, whatever it was. They were rowdy. What would happen if the employee at the front desk said, Mr. Scholl, I apologize. I notice you're going to be here for 2 more nights. Would it be okay if we moved you to the King Suite? Now, the suite's empty. What's the cost? Nothing. Just a bigger room to clean. There's no real cost. So we all have things of value. We have to make it right. You have to pay them for their inconvenience. You have bought yourself a second chance. I believe if you compensate them generously, they just might fall in love with you. So let's walk through a scenario. Tonight, you're at a restaurant. You have a reservation for 4 people at 7 o'clock at night. And you get there and the hostess says, Mr. Smith, there's no possible way I can seat you on time. People have not left. We're just overcrowded and it's all our fault. Would you be kind enough with your party to go into the bar and have drinks on us until we can get you seated? Now, what are you going to think? You're thinking, damn, this is really cool. You know, you probably were going to have a drink anyhow. So now there's 4 of you in there and somebody has a glass of wine, somebody has a beer, somebody has a Coke, somebody has a scotch, okay? And while you're having the drinks, what are you talking about? You're saying, God, I can't believe this happened. This is the coolest thing I've done. And let's say that each of you had 2 drinks. Now what's happening is that people are on their phone and they're doing Facebook pages. They're doing all sorts of great things to tell everybody else about it. So maybe everybody's going to tell 20 to 100 other people, and then that word will spread. So let's say out of the 4 people, 400 other people hear about this. Now let's say you got a manager of a restaurant and says, this is really crazy. Do you realize the cost of 4 drinks? That cost is probably at least 2 pounds each per person, a pound per drink. That's 8 pounds. Too much money. So the manager says, you know, what I want to do is increase my customers. So he goes to the local television station in London with 8 pounds. And he says, I would like to run a TV commercial to bring people to my to my restaurant. I got 8 pounds. What's he going to get? 1 second of airtime? They're going to laugh at it. But now for 8 pounds, I got 4 people that are telling probably anywhere from 20 to 100 other people about how great this experience was because they've never seen anything like it before. And the cost to your restaurant is $8. So all of us have products and services that have high value, low cost. And what I would recommend that you do is identify at least 5 or 10 things, products and services that you have that you can give your employees that they can give away instantly without thinking. So every single company has products that have high value, low cost. Now, the key here is if you're too cheap, there's no value. You got to create things of value, okay? So the higher the value, the bigger the impact, the customer falls in love with you. At Amazon, I bought a gift package of nuts for my brother and his wife for Christmas. And by mistake, they shipped them to my office here in Minneapolis. And I opened up the package and I thought the packaging was poor. The value to me looked really cheap. I didn't like it at all. So I called up Amazon. And by the way, I like to call Amazon because, you know, I don't, you know, we can do stuff on the internet, but I like to call them. And they'll answer the phone a few rings. They'll ask a security question and then they'll move forward with you. But the person on the phone said, I apologize. It's a food product, so we can't take it back. We will just give you a credit for it. Why don't you keep it and either eat them yourself or give them away to somebody else? That's what Amazon does. Now, most people would say, this is crazy, you know, because you got to understand, most people would not want $105 billion increase in sales in one year. I mean, that's too much money. Okay? Most people wouldn't want to have a net worth of $200 billion. See, Amazon understands customer obsession. They understand service recovery. They will always take care of the customer. Okay? I need you to be an Amazon. I need you to be the best of the best. And then the last 2 items that I want to talk about is we got to reduce costs. Price is really important. So why do I go to Amazon? Because they got speed, they got service recovery, they got empowerment, but they got price. So I don't go to Amazon because they have the highest prices or average prices. I go to Amazon because I can get things for less money on Amazon. So there's several ways in your business you can reduce costs, and then you pass the savings on to the customer with lower prices. So number one is you got stupid policies and rules. I'll bet you that every company watching this presentation has crazy rules, stupid policies, things that could be changed to dramatically improve speed and significantly eliminate costs. And then the next one is reduce the number of employees by developing high-performing employees. We have some companies have dead people. I wouldn't be surprised. Many companies in the UK have at least 10% of their workforce are people that have died on the job, and they keep paying them. Okay. So you want to eliminate non-performing employees, and you want to develop high-performing employees. If you have rock stars, you don't need as many employees. But you got to develop rock stars. So having too many employees is also very expensive. Not having enough is a heck of a problem. And then last, you got to terminate non-performing employees. If you have dead employees, it's a disaster. And there are some people that do just enough not to get fired. And we keep them because they haven't done anything egregious, but they kill off our customers. So I believe in developing all employees. And those employees who don't buy into the customer service strategy, who are unable to deliver this incredible customer experience, you need to be able to say goodbye and help them work for a competitor. So price is very important. I think in the UK that not enough companies understand the power of price and the value of having a lower price. And then the last item that we're going to talk about is you got to measure results. Measure, measure, measure. As I said when I started, CEOs are driven only by hard numbers. Show me the money. Research shows, this is from Bain and Company and Fred Reichweld, that if you can reduce your defection rate, these are the customers that say goodbye, you can have profit swings. If you reduce it by just 5%, the defection rate, you can have profit swings of 25 to 100%. If you can cut your defection rate by 50%, you can double your growth. That is very significant. That's one of the reasons, by the way, for service recovery. You can cut your defection rate if on the spot, when there's a problem, your employee solves it instantly. And that's why empowerment is so important. Your goal is to have over happy customers. So you got to measure what you're doing. All the service leaders measure what they're doing. They understand the power of customer obsession. They understand the power of creating a service culture. And one of the things that I'm not a big fan of are surveys. I think surveys are overused. In the United States, almost every transaction, everybody wants to do a survey. They want you to take 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 10 minutes to fill out their stupid survey. And nobody ever reads the survey. Nobody ever does anything with the surveys. I would say in the United States, probably 80, 95% of all companies do surveys all the time. And they're overused. It's a waste of money. If they took the money they spend doing surveys, all of that money, and they used it to spend to buy customer service training rooms, to develop their people to be high performing, the money would be better spent. So be careful that you're not going overboard on surveys. The Net Promoter Score is a viable tool because it asks one simple question: would you recommend us to a friend or relative? And if you're not a 9 or a 10, then your score goes way down. So the goal is to be relentless. to commit to staying relentless. If you are relentless, it will drive your organization to success. I have a free copy of the book that you can receive by emailing me and talking about the Digital Age Seminar. And I will email you a free copy of the Relentless book. My email is john@servicequality.com. So my challenge for you is to create a service culture, to train and develop your staff to become customer driven. My contact information is right here on this slide. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. My WhatsApp number is 611 and then 612-382-5636. If I can be of any help to any of you in driving your service culture, please let me know. So again, we talked about three things: strategy, leadership, and tools. And we talked about the 9 principles of creating a service culture: the relentless strategy, reduce friction, drive empowerment, make sure everybody in your company is empowered, master speed, reduce the time by 90%, train and develop everybody on the art of customer service, use the customer's name, remember the customer, master service recovery, eliminate costs, reduce costs, dramatically be able to lower your price, and finally measure results. If you do those, I believe you will be relentless. Thank you very much. I'm open now for questions that any of you may have.
Thank you, John. That was absolutely incredible. I've learned so much, and I'm sure everyone else has. How do you feel?
So, anybody have any questions? I'm here live. Any questions, anybody?
John, I just wanted to say I came in at the end because I'm getting prepared to follow you. And I
Okay.
thought you spoke very authoritatively. It was very interesting, the last little bit that I was able to pick up. So thank you very
Debbie.
much.
It
You're
was
welcome.
absolutely incredible. So many examples. It put me to shame some parts. I was thinking, oh my goodness. But it was just incredible. And you would be.
Okay. No questions from anybody, Joe?
I'm actually taking it all in. Excuse me. Someone phoned me just before and they're actually listening to you on this screen. And I was like, I can't listen. I can't speak to you. I'm hearing 2 different, both of your audios going. But question wise, no, I think it would have to be over an email or something because you covered so much and so much depth. But you're 100% with
I can
regards
talk for hours.
to service. If we didn't have another speaker afterwards, I would absolutely keep you on here forever. I was looking forward to see if you were on any other days coming up, but I've only got till tomorrow to work. Are you doing any more workshops or anything over the next 2 days?
Okay. So Joe, do you want me to sign off now?
Yes, or you can stay for the next speaker, but sure.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
John,
Debbie,
thank you so,
great
so
success.
much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Go and have a nice drink and refresh.
Thank
I
you.
know, just brilliant. Thank you. Hi, Debbie. How are you doing?
I'm great.
How do you-
Thank you, Joe.
How do you feel? Do you feel okay?
Oh,
Do you feel
I
ready
feel
to go?
absolutely fine. I am literally
Yeah.
going to wing this. I have no other stuff, no props. I'm going to do it as if I was doing to a live physical audience in a room. So
Don't worry, you're doing it to a live audience. They're just not physically there at the moment.
I know.
but
Well, you know what I
how
mean. You know what I
exciting.
mean.
Oh, no,
But
I do.
I
No, I mean, yes, I get it fully. Don't think
I
no one's
thought about
watching.
doing
is wondering.
props and things, and then I thought it might be too much over an hour.
Yes,
So
I can only imagine, when you have props, I don't know, but I'm very much looking forward to it. Excuse my voice. Okay, fantastic. So I'll hand the floor over to yourself. I just
Thank
get
you.
it.
Can you hear me okay? You could,
Oh, yes, perfect.
because I've just played with my speaker, so my microphone.
Oh, no, it sounds perfect. It looks great. You look great as well, which is really good. Okay. Oh, I'm excited.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure to be here at the Digital Age Expo. It's a bit difficult to say when you've not had enough to drink and you know you're ready to. So my name is Debbie Richins and I'm an emotional resilience coach. My specialism is trauma, grief and loss. And I support people from all walks of life with issues that cause them deep distress and deep pain that often gets buried underneath the stuff that goes on in life. And they think, well, I'll just pop it away over my shoulder and I'll come back to it later. And sometimes later doesn't happen because so much of life comes in and takes over that we don't get to that point where we actually can sit down and deal with how we feel about the losses we've experienced in our lives. I speak from experience. I qualified as a grief recovery specialist 2 years ago after many, many years of trauma, many years of not really knowing who I was in the grand scheme of things, and feeling that I was just collecting layers and layers of stuff that actually I really didn't want and I didn't know how to deal with. What I didn't know then was I had layers and layers of stuff underneath from childhood as well that I hadn't learned how to explore and I hadn't learned how to acknowledge. And that was a big wake-up call when I did my training. That was a really big wake-up call because I suddenly had this incredibly powerful set of tools that was so simple, yet so very, very effective. And I set about using them. And every week I meet with another specialist with my completion letter, which is what we create at the end of the process. And every week I actually meet her with maybe 2 or 3 completion letters. There are a few weeks that go by where there isn't one written. So I've been doing this journey regularly with commitment to myself for the last 18 months at least. And these tools are so effective because our emotional resilience takes a massive battering from all of the things around us in our lives. We go to school and we find that we're comfortable with a teacher who really gets us, but then the teacher isn't there anymore for whatever the reason is. We've gone up a class, or the teacher's gone on to another school and moved away, or we've gone up to another school. And so the person that was really important to us has been left behind. But everybody tells us we have to be big and strong and brave because we're growing up and we're doing big things in our lives. You don't need to worry about that person anymore. But actually that person meant something to you. And so actually you're grieving the loss of that relationship. And this is the thing that we don't understand when we're children, and we don't understand fully when we're older either. Because we just move from area to area, job to job, home to home. But we're leaving a part of ourselves behind in every one and in every place, in every area. And that is something that we just don't address. We don't talk about how we actually really feel. We don't let those emotions out. So, very good example for me to be able to let you know about when it comes to home things is when I was married some years ago. I lived in a home that was a tied accommodation to my ex-husband's job. And I had gone there as a pregnant mum. I'd had my baby. She'd grown up there. We'd spent 7.5 years of her life there. We were incredibly privileged to live on the end of a private estate in Oxfordshire that just afforded us the most beautiful view across the valley. And it also gave us the freedom of walking around a beautiful lake and various other things that were going on around us. We had the gardens, we had the fresh vegetables from the gardens, we had the fresh flowers. So we were graced with this beautiful place to live. Once a year, we had the big fireworks exhibition that happened in the field next to our house. So we got to watch them for free, you know, and all these things were a major part of a very close family circle. And then my ex-husband chose to go back to being self-employed. And for one reason or another, we had to leave the property. And in leaving the property, that was not easy because we didn't have a lot of money behind us. And when you live in a tied accommodation, you very rarely get a large enough amount of wage to have savings. And that can be very, very difficult. So we didn't have any savings and we had to go through the very debasing process of being made homeless so that the council would finally, after 17 years of being on that list, give us a home. And it was just horrendous. It was awful. It was one of the most painful processes I've ever experienced in my life. And I couldn't pack a box. I physically couldn't take the things out of the drawer and pack the boxes. And I didn't know that it's because I was in the depths of grief, leaving this home that I loved so much. When I did grief recovery and I sat and I looked at my timeline, I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, that was enormous grief, unresolved, unspoken, and I was carrying that around. So I sat down and did my completion with my last home. And now I don't think about it at all in the same way anymore. Had I told you about this before grief recovery, I would have told you with a lump in my chest. I would have felt it in my face. I wouldn't have been able to speak easily. My words would have been stuttering and I probably would have been crying. The power of us learning effective tools makes a difference to how we are, how we thrive, and how we deal with the things as they come along in our lives. You know, we have lots of losses in our lives, but what happens is we don't acknowledge them. We brush them off thinking that everything's going to be okay and that we're all going to be all right. And oh, it's all right, it'll come another day and we can sit down and talk it through. But then everything gets brushed onto the carpet as life comes along and bowls us over really and carries us on forward. But we forget to deal with this thing that's sitting on our shoulder. And so it becomes baggage. And we end up with lots and lots of baggage, unresolved things that we don't speak of. There are so many things that come from grief and loss, so many things that impinge on our emotional resilience and how we can cope with the everyday things that come into our lives. As children, we develop habits that are there to show the adults we've got a problem. So we chew our nails, we scratch our skin, we pull at our hair. Sometimes we purposely go and throw ourselves about in the garden. Not me, that was my brother. But we do these things because we're wanting the adults to see us. And if we're getting told off for chewing our nails, then they're acknowledging we're there. There may not be a conversation, but the very fact that they've taken that time to tell us off means that they've seen us. And this can go on and on. As we get older, it can become eating habits, OCD habits, sport, where you're just constantly putting more and more effort into your sport, not because you love it, but because you think it's going to help everything else go away and that it's going to give you an easy mind. And that doesn't always work either. And sometimes it can lead to injuries and overwhelm and overexhaustion because you've done too much and you've pushed your body too hard. And it's not because you're happy doing the sport, it's because you're trying to drown out how you feel emotionally. If your parents divorced when you were young, there'll be lots of things that you didn't even know. You didn't know the reason why. You might have done, you might hear them shouting and screeching at each other, and you might hear the reasons why. But if you're very young, you won't always understand what those reasons mean. You might have work that isn't satisfying and isn't happy, or you may be so happy in your work that you've spent years and years working towards a certain position, only to find that the company is just restructured and that position that was your nest egg is gone. And then you suddenly find yourself completely lost. You suddenly don't know how to deal with how you feel because it's an unresolved issue, something that you just don't know how you feel about it. And people will be telling you, oh, there's lots more work out there, you'll get another job, it won't be a problem. How do they know that? They're not actually hearing you. They're not hearing you speak about how you feel. They're dumbing you down and telling you that those feelings aren't important. So what do? You swallow them down inside. Our bodies don't like carrying around dead emotion. And our bodies will create illness, disease, and it will create discomfort. So things will happen to us. We'll start to become anxious. We'll have depression. We may gain weight. We may lose weight. We might have skin breakouts. We might have dreadful, dreadful colds, catch lots of viruses, have terrible tummy troubles. And it goes on and on and on until it becomes diabetes, arthritis, cancer, and various other issues. For me, it was a constant sore throat when I was married. And it wasn't until I came away from the marriage, after 23 years of being with the same person, that I understood that the throat is trapped words. And until I learned to release those words, I still had the sore throat for many years afterwards. The very thought of the person and my throat would clam up and I would start to become raspy and I would start to get really uncomfortable throat. And actually, when he had a stroke in 2015, that I heard about on the grapevine, sadly, within 20 minutes, I had full-blown laryngitis and I couldn't speak. That's my body saying, you've not said what you need to say, you've not let out what you need to say, so I'm going to force you into looking at it and realizing it. And that throat was like that for about 3 weeks. So our bodies respond to the emotions that we hold on to, and if we don't learn how to create emotional resilience for ourselves, and we don't learn how to read the things that are going on with our bodies, we can become sicker and sicker without even realizing what we're doing to ourselves, because we're not taught awareness. Now, I could have come with a big presentation with lots of facts and figures and lots of diagrams and all kinds of things, but actually realism for me is the thing, because I've had so many experiences that I have grown to understand were the emotions that I was living with. When I left my ex-husband in 2005, it was a very difficult time. And I had hope that it was going to be adult and sensible and together, you know, so that we were supporting our child. But I soon found that I wasn't allowed to be any of those things. And I was separated from my only child. What I found was I did the normal weight loss diet that we all do when we're going through a divorce. And that wasn't awful, but it wasn't good. But I also found along the way, I started to become very unwell and I couldn't work out why. Until one day I found myself in the local A&E because I couldn't lie down and I couldn't stand up because I was in so much pain. And it felt to me like somebody had stuffed a red hot blunt poker up under my shoulder blade, and I didn't know why. And every time I let down, I had the most dreadful acid reflux. But I was only drinking water and I was only drinking herbal tea and I was eating a reasonable diet. So I couldn't see the reason why. And they sent me for an ultrasound. And I had an enormous gallstone, singular gallstone, that was, when they took it out, it was almost shy of the size of a tennis ball. And it had been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But it wasn't there when I left my divorce, when I left my married home in 2005. But by 2007, it had debilitated me to the point that it almost killed me. And I had emergency surgery to have it removed along with the gallbladder. It was the most frightening, terrifying experience. And it wasn't until the conversation afterwards with the surgeon where he said to me, singular gallstones come from extreme stress. They're rapid calcium deposits, but there's nowhere for them to go in the body, and the body can't excrete. So what it does is it creates this ball. They're quite rare. In fact, I've only seen 2 in 24 years of surgery. I think I sat there with my jaw open at that point, and I just popped it up and thought, okay, makes me a bit odd, but there you are. I didn't think anything more of it. I just knew that all the distress and upset of what had been going on had obviously impacted my body in a big way. But it wasn't until I did grief recovery I understood that was my body trying to tell me that I had to find another way to cope with the stress and distress that I was going through. But of course, I didn't know. And nobody in the medical profession told me either. So there was no support there. Knowing what I know now, there's no likelihood of any of those things ever happening again, because the words are spoken, the words are addressed. And we have grief coming from all different levels of trauma in our lives. And so much of it we just don't address. So children have grief from simple things, losing their teddy. I think at 3 years old, we had moved house from one side of London to the other. And my dad had to go back and get my doll because I was creating merry heck because it was in our former home. I'd been told that story the few times my dad turned up, every time he saw me. So it was a big thing for him because I'd inconvenienced him as a 3-year-old, which you wouldn't think was a thing. But it was a big thing for him because every time he would tell me how much of an inconvenience it was that he'd had to go back and get that doll. To me at 3, my world had ended. And it's these sorts of things that we forget and they get buried away in our subconscious. And then when we're adults and something happens, we start to feel uneasy and we start to feel unclear about what it is that's troubling us. And something else will come along and that feeling gets a bit bigger. Something else comes along and that feeling gets a bit bigger. And then something big happens and we suddenly find ourselves staring into the abyss, wondering what on earth's going on with our lives. How do we get into that place of feeling so distressed by the simple things? It should be the distress of a death, surely. We shouldn't be distressed over all of these other little things that keep happening. But if we don't learn how to be purely vocal and speak about our emotional issues and actually let those words out, we're never going to release it. We're just going to collect it up. I always liken it to Pandora's box. We collect up all these little bits of stuff that we see and experience every single day. Our subconscious is like brain soup, and it just collects and collects and collects. And every so often, the things that we've buried there deliberately because, well, we'll deal with that another day, or oh, it's not really that important, we'll not worry about it. It just sits there. And then something else comes along and wakes that memory up. And we start to feel uneasy. And we start to feel not in control of what's going on around us. And when I went to grief recovery, I was actually running a grandparents support group for grandparents who are alienated from their grandchildren. I'm one of them. And I'd asked somebody to come and talk about grief recovery because I wanted the grandparents to know they're grieving the loss of the relationship with their grandchildren. And I asked her afterwards, you know, how did you think the day went? And she said to me, you need to go and get trained. And I looked at her and I said, pardon? She said, you need to get trained. You do intrinsically what I've been trained to do. You might as well earn money doing that. And that was a bit of a wake-up call for me. Understanding that actually I had a skill that I had developed from all of those years of painful experiences. And so I went and got trained. And as I sat in that training room doing the work, it was like a huge aha, massive aha. I suddenly felt like I came alive because I had found the way to deal with all that soup of emotion that had been left in there, just going round and round and round and giving me a poke every so often. But the poke was so often that I felt in constant conflict with myself. And so many of us do that without even realizing what it is. And it's our emotional stuff. It's our bodies and our minds telling us, you know, I really need you to deal with this. I need you to get it out of here so that you can go on and have a happier life. And that's a big, big thing because we just don't know how to do that. Some people are very charmed and they can go through life with no issues at all. And they can just ride the crest of the wave. And that's so wonderful. I've watched people do that. And I'm sure many of you have as well. And what I found is that every so often they hit a bump. And the bump is so big that they're derailed. And it's usually because there's something that's gone on in their young lives that's never been addressed and often forgotten. And so this beautiful, wonderful life that they're having now suddenly comes to a screeching halt. Whereas for me, my life has done screeching halts for an awful long time. And so it didn't seem out of the ordinary for me to think, oh, another thing's happened, another experience that I've got to notch up and say, well, you know, I've got over that one, I've got past that one. Many women and many men, when they're in marriages, limp through the marriage, not realizing that it's over. They keep trying to paper over the cracks. They keep trying to get past the issues. And there are upsets and there are quiet, you know, when they're not talking to each other. And then there are, oh, tomorrow I'm going to tell him I'm off. Or tomorrow I'm telling her I've had enough and that's it, it's over. And tomorrow never comes. And then something big happens. And what could have been a much easier break or a much easier mending suddenly becomes an all-out war. And I say mending. My ex-husband's brother was killed in a car accident 3 weeks before our second wedding anniversary. It wasn't his fault. He was completely innocent. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. My ex-husband found alcohol in a very big way. And for a few years, he wasn't himself. I couldn't get him to get help because he was a man and he wasn't going to have counselling. He didn't need counselling. He'd just get over it. But he never did get over it. And then when our daughter was 5, 7 years after the first accident, 3 generations of his family, the same side of the family, and they were only a small family, were killed in a car accident. His aunt, who I was very close to, his cousin, who I was very close to, and his cousin's baby. They were 45, 21, and 18 months old. And he descended back into alcohol. And I begged and begged for him to go and get help. And he wouldn't, because he didn't need counselling. He didn't need support. He didn't need a therapist. But he didn't speak of it either. He just kept drinking. Alcohol is a sticking plaster. And that was his sticking plaster. It would drown how he felt, but it wouldn't deal with the stuff inside. And I watched from the sidelines, horrified, couldn't change it. It created all kinds of emotional upsets between us, and we were constantly upset. Me trying to find ways to get it better, him trying to find ways to push me away because I was getting a bit close to whatever was truthful for him. Both of us behaving not in the best way, because that's what happens when our emotional resilience is a bit of a mess. And when we're doing this constant bicker, or worse, it has an effect on other people. So no matter how much you try to protect your children from those experiences, they do experience them, and they do find that they have an influence on how they become and how they behave. And they carry that into their lives, the way I carried the stuff from my parents' marriage into my life without even realizing what I was doing. Now that I've gone back and looked at that relationship, I see my responsibility in it. But we don't always see that when we're in the thick of it. I see the places where I fought too hard to stay because my belief system was telling me that my parents had divorced when I was so tiny that I wasn't going to do that to my child. I didn't think about the adult that I was married to. I was overridden with the belief that I had to protect my child. And actually now I can see that I didn't do either. I didn't protect myself and I didn't protect my child because I didn't have the emotional resilience to understand what was happening. Now I can take a step back from those things and I can be fully present in understanding them. Whereas when I was in the thick of them, I just couldn't see the archetypal phrase, the wood for the trees. And I lived with all the trauma. I lived with all the upset. It has had a massive, powerful effect on my body. For many, many years, I lived with debilitating pain in the form of an autoimmune condition called fibromyalgia, until I did grief recovery. And grief recovery brought me freedom from pain because it allowed me to sleep properly, wholesomely for the first time in my life. I hadn't slept since childhood. I had insomnia. And as I did grief recovery, it gave me back something I'd never experienced: comforting, healthy sleep. And because I was having that beautiful sleep, my body was ready to say, time to do the repair work. And now we can do it properly because we're not being interrupted anymore. And all the little cycles of repair started to happen. And as they did, the fibromyalgia started to calm down hugely. And that was such a big eye-opener, that I could change something that was debilitating me and causing me such distress. Now, I couldn't have spoken about any of these things that I've talked about without overwhelming distress in my chest, that feeling that I had flush rising through my face, even though I didn't. The words that would just pull the tears out of my eyes and literally in waterfalls. Now I can sit and I can talk about those experiences clearly, with clarity, and I can be really honest about how I ended up in that place and how I've been able to deal with that. So when I'm teaching someone else, I can empathize with them, and I can see where sometimes they need to be encouraged to think about how they're putting their words together. Because sometimes people are afraid of saying what they really feel deep inside. But you know, I am so happy when somebody says to me, I felt like, whatever that F word is, or whatever the other words are. Because actually that's the emotion. That's what you felt deep inside when you were at that point of distress. And letting it out and actually being vocal about it is so, so healthy. We spend so much of our lives putting all the painful stuff into that box on the shoulder and never coming back to it. So doing the process that I teach people helps to create clarity, to bring those words out, to let the emotions out, and to give a freedom for speaking the words out loud and being heard. Everything that I teach is done in complete confidence. What I'm teaching people is how to be truly honest with themselves, how to be very clear with themselves, how to be brave about letting out all those trapped emotions that they've often thought are far better off left in that box on their shoulder because they're so afraid of experiencing them. One of the beautiful parts of this process is it is so gentle. It might feel like you're having a real slap in the face as you're remembering those incidents. But as you start to write down the words, and then you sit and you read those words, the power of release comes along. And you feel that emotion, but you release it. It feels a little bit here, but it's nothing like it was when it first happened. It's nothing like it's been for all of those years that you have carried it around with you, like a stone attached to a very long string that you dragged around. You know, there are so many things in our lives that we just don't acknowledge. And we're not being honest with ourselves because of it. There are so many times when we're told by others, it'll be all right. I know the dog died, but you can get another one. And we're not being allowed to grieve that beautiful, precious animal that's been in our lives, whether it be 5 minutes or 5 years, because we're already being told, well, we can get another one to replace it. That car accident we had on the way to work, when we were minding our own business and we were doing everything the right way, all of a sudden to find that people around us are judging us on our driving skills, or the other driver is trying to assert that it wasn't their fault, even though they hit you from behind, it was your fault because you did something. And so you take all these things on board, but you know it's not you. And yet everyone else, all that chatter is telling you it was you. So you sort of semi-believe it, and you, oh, I don't want that. I'm going to pop it in that box there. I can get another car, the insurance will sort it all out. But it's all of that trauma that we go through at that moment, the impact of the accident. Our body takes a bit of a banging. Our mind goes into mad chatter because it's trying to deal with all of the different things that have happened to us in that moment. So half the things that are going on in our mind, we don't even get to acknowledge because we don't actually know what they are. Because in that split second of being hit by another vehicle, what's going on here is going 10 times faster than what's coming out of your mouth. And so you don't actually know a great deal of the stuff that's gone on there. So you bury it in the box and you pop it away. The insurance will sort the car out. I'll get another car, we'll get back on the road. And then a few years later, something will happen while you're in the car and you'll feel uneasy. You'll have another car accident perhaps. Somebody will step out in the road. Something will happen and you will suddenly feel very odd and very unsure because you've put all that stuff in the box behind you and you've never dealt with it. You've never actually said, that beat person just wasn't taking notice. And then they blamed me for all of what was going on. And I felt this pain in my chest and I was so shocked. And I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know how to say how I felt about what happened. So I just buried it. And you'll find that there are situations like this for all kinds of things, relationships, events, health, work. And when I say relationships, they could be husband, wife, they could be best friends, they could be friendships with other children's parents, they could be work friendships, they could be acquaintances. Anybody and everybody can misunderstand you and mishear you at any time and think that what you've said is different and judge you for it and make you feel uneasy. And because you don't know what it is, you can't address it, so you bury it in the box. And I don't know about you, but I carried an awful big box for an awful long time. And it's so freeing when you learn how to let go of those things and build your emotional resilience. And one of the other things that having a good emotional resilience can do is cope with the death of a parent. And my mother died on the 1st of May. She was taken ill quite suddenly last year. Nothing to do with COVID, although the impact of COVID did have an impact on her last year of life. And so many things happened so quickly, so many diagnoses, that I used the process that I teach others. Every single thing that came along at me, the cancer, the dementia, the second form of dementia. The understanding that the first dementia had been seen when she had her stroke in 2012, but had never been spoken of as it should have been. So the very upset GP that hadn't been able to support her as she should have been able to. The nurses at the hospital that discounted her as a mad old biddy, when actually she was in a very fearful place and didn't really understand what was going on because she didn't know about the diagnosis of dementia. And various other things that happened. And I sat down, and every time I had a thing in front of me, I sat down and I wrote how I felt about it. I forgave what I needed to forgive, because forgiveness is scientifically proven to release us from physical ailment, from emotional ailment, and to allow us to have freedom to live securely, healthily, and happily. I took responsibility for my part in things by apologizing, mainly because I couldn't change the situation and I couldn't make it as easy as she needed me to because of the circumstances of how COVID was impacting things. The time I was allowed to visit, half an hour once a week. It's a long time when you're in the car for 3 hours traveling there and back. For half an hour to just vanish so fast. The lack of ability of being able to have a proper conversation with her because of her hearing and her sight issues. The significant statements I had to make about how I felt about each and every part of what was going on. And also all the stuff of our lives. Because even though you think your parents are wonderful, there have always been things from when we were children. Something we didn't do quite right, where we really got told off for it. Or maybe they'd been sick and they weren't there for us when we really needed them to be. And that was true in my case. So I was able to forgive her those health issues. And I was apologizing for my behaviors because I didn't understand at the time what was going on, because I was too young. I was too young to truly take it in. And I was able to say goodbye to all of those things. So that when I spent the last few hours of my mother's life with her, I was able to be fully and wholly present. I wasn't in a mess of tears. I wasn't in a state of shock. I wasn't terrified that I couldn't live without her, that I was going to be full of all this painful emotion. And dare I say it, that last hour of her life was so peaceful. I would almost say it was a joy, because I wasn't overwhelmed with emotion that was taking away the peace that she needed. And yet when my father had died in 2013, I was a dreadful mess. My mother had been present all my life. My father hadn't. So it proved to me that by dealing with all those tiny things that all add up into a big package of pain and distress, because I dealt with each one as I went along, and I did the process I teach, I was able to let go of the anger. I was able to let go of the pain and the distress. I was able to have freedom from the emotions that would otherwise have tied me down, and did actually do that to me after my father's death. So it was a very salutary lesson that everything I did worked and made it and an easier journey. Because anticipatory grief, where you are watching somebody dying in front of you and you are seeing that they are not able to help themselves, and you're seeing that they're grieving their losses as well. It's a massive lump of stuff to deal with. And I'd already done that journey the year before, up to my mother-in-law's death, when I'd cared for her with her Alzheimer's and her health issues. And even that journey was kinder, because I'd also sat and done the process, not quite as in depth as I had for my mother, but I didn't need to do it as in depth. I was able to process those things and deal with them. And I can't think of anything better than having practical tools to support our emotional well-being, to give us that strength that we need to overcome the bumps and blips that come on our way. I can think of nothing better than being emotionally resilient. And I'm going to stop there. I have no idea if there's anybody who would like to ask any questions, but I need a drink.
Debbie, that was incredible. For me, I think it's amazing knowing that we can perceive loss as just as just one thing.
Yeah, it seems like they can
So to hear you talk about those things was such an eye-opener for me, to realize that the loss isn't just you just losing a person. There's so many vast things that can affect your life that you don't even realize till you peel it all back, and you don't peel it all back till you meet someone who's so knowledgeable like yourself. I'm in awe here. I was like the whole time.
Just you.
It was incredible. But I have no doubt the visitors are going to learn as much as I have on this, because it was a real eye-opener, and I think everyone needs to.
Hello, Debbie.
Hello, Santosh. Lovely to see you.
Same here. I thought before you say I'm going off, I'll probably just log into Zoom and just say, thank you very much for this,